Mm.
Here on our own, what you offering? Another money mind. Oh, you wanna rob me blind? Well, I don't know this time. Oh, don't want it just to lie. Don't wanna feed the fire. Tell me what to do. Been listening to my heart. It's leading me from the dark. Tell me what to choose. Don't wanna trust a liar. Don't wanna feed the fire. Tell me what to do. Listening to my heart. It's leading me from the dark. Tell me what to choose. Tell me what to choose. Keep us voiceless. You try to keep us down, but we are backing out because the time is now. Screaming till you're breathless, till other voices drown. But we ain't backing down. Oh, our time is now. Don't want it just a liar. Don't wanna feed the fire. Tell me what to do. Hey, hey. Listening to my heart. It's leading me from the dark. Tell me what
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3.
to choose. Tell me what to do. Don't wanna trust a liar. Don't wanna feed the fire. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do.
Okay, welcome back. Well, Okay. Well, welcome back. My name is Jorge Escobar. It's here, Jorge Escobar. And I am, this stream is my learning stream. I am learning Python on this course over here. There is a sale currently now, and I am really interested in buying a Django framework course, but not at this time. I should probably buy that course now that there is a promotional season now, but I might like to finish stuff first. For example, this course over here, and here we are. So in the last session, I finished up scraping data with Python. I figured that since I was getting tired of absorbing all that information and trying to make sense of it, well, I may like to start fresh today with this one here, because this is the one that I am actually interested in. Because I can build this alone on my own, you know. I can build websites. I had done it before, and well, this is another stack. I'm going to be building this website, whatever it is, as a Python developer, not a JavaScript developer with Node.js. So in this case, I'm going to be working here. Anything else? I don't think so. Okay, well, let's get back to it. Okay. Oh, wait. There we go. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot my... There we go. Never mind. So we're on the clock now.
Install Tweety. Oh boy, we have an extra exciting section for you. This is a section that I absolutely love. I got into programming because of web development. And in this section, we're going to explore how we can use Python in web development. And actually, the way we use Python in web development will also work with mobile development. And this is a really exciting field because, well, as you're aware, there's lots of web applications. There's lots of mobile applications. And using Python, we can actually help build these applications. In this section, I'm going to give you a general overview of web development, what that involves, how websites actually work, how browsers work. We're also going to use Python to build our own server, our own portfolio webpage, where people can view our portfolios and actually submit maybe a request to work with you or send you a message and actually store it in places like a database. So by the end of this section, you're going to have your own portfolio website that is live and in production. It's going to be a very, very fun one. But in order for us to learn how we can use Python, we need to first understand how the web works. So in the next video, let's learn how the web works. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.
How websites work.
So how do websites work? Now, I have an entire web development course, so because this is a Python course, we're not going to go super, super deep into this topic. Instead, we're going to focus on the Python side of things. But I do want to help you understand what we're building and how everything works, because hopefully by the end of this course, you're able to actually change your portfolio, update your portfolio to your own liking, and showcase the projects that we've built throughout the course. So I have a website for you here. We have XKCD, which is just a little funny comic website. If I click refresh here or enter this URL, I'm taken to this website. But how does this actually work? How is my browser, in this case, Google Chrome, able to display this web page for me? I need to be connected to the internet, right? So there's some sort of data that's being transferred for me to be able to see this. So let's explore how this works. And look at that. I created a nice little diagram for you. And in this diagram, I'm going to attempt to just tell you exactly how it works. It's quite simple. We have our browser right here, which can be Google Chrome, it could be Safari, it could be Firefox. It doesn't matter. This browser, we're able to type into it a website or maybe Google for a website and then click on a website. When we click on a website, what happens is that through internet, the browser makes a request all the way to another machine. And this machine, which we call a server, is located anywhere in the world. It doesn't really matter. Because through our internet network, the browser is going to say, hey, this website, who owns that website? Or which machine can serve me the files for that website? And using some complex logic, it's going to find this server, which at the end of the day is just a computer, and we're actually going to show you and deploy our own server. Well, it simply says, hey, give me some data, because without data, I'm not able to display anything on a web page.
Yeah.
And the server, well, first of all, they communicate over something called HTTP and HTTPS. Because the browser and the server are two different machines, right? The browser is on my laptop right now. And the machine, which is a server, it can be anywhere in the world, they need to communicate some way. And we need a rule to say, we don't want all these machines talking to each other with no rules in place. For example, we can agree that when we communicate between you and I'm going to speak in English. In the same way, HTTP and HTTPS, which is a secured encrypted version of communication allows me to say, hey, can you give me the data? And the server to understand, oh, this website or this browser needs the data that I have. If I go back to this website over here, you see that I'm using HTTPS. And it's saying I want to use the HTTPS protocol, that is the language, to communicate that I want to go to this website. So as soon as I hit enter, it's going to make that request all the way to a server somewhere. And then the server is going to respond with this data. Let's continue with our diagram. So the request has just been made. This server just happens to have 3 files that we need. One is an HTML file, and this file is the text or content of the website. The other one is the CSS file, and this contains all the styling of the website. So that is colors, maybe some fonts, maybe the position of the elements, anything to do with style so it doesn't look like a boring piece of text. And then we have JavaScript. JavaScript is what gives websites behavior. When I log into Facebook or maybe tweet something on Twitter, JavaScript is allowing me to perform those actions. Because with just HTML and CSS, we just have text and some pretty styling. With JavaScript, we're able to take actions. But we don't need to focus on that too much. All we need to know is that the server, because it's a computer, on its files, has these 3 files for us. And these 3 files, what happened, get sent to the browser. Because the browser was really, really kind and asked, hey, can you give me data? And the server says, sure, here it is, and sends us these 3 files. And these 3 files, when they get sent back, the browser understands them. And because it understands them, even though to us it may look like gibberish, it's able to display that website for us. But let me ask you a question. Up until now, I haven't really talked about Python. I thought this was a Python course, Andre. Why are you telling me all this stuff that I don't care about? Well, because in here, there's one piece that can actually be written in Python. Can you guess what that is? If you guessed the server, congratulations. You get 5,000 points. You see, the browser is something that, well, it's an application we download on our computer, right? But up until now, the server was kind of a mystery box, a machine, a computer somewhere. But Python programmers can actually write the logic and the rules that servers depend upon. So all this communication of, hey, can you give me data, can be interpreted in Python, and then send this data to the browser using Python. And we're going to build our own server over the next couple of videos, but also touch upon these HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files so we can actually display something like a website. Now, I want to finish off this video with one question. Do you think that this server has to be written in Python? What do you think? Nope, it doesn't, right? The browser doesn't care what this machine is like. All it cares about is these 3 files. And because we're speaking in this HTTPS protocol, the browser says, hey, I don't care what language you speak, I don't care anything. I'm just going to tell you through this HTTPS, just give me the data that I want. And we can do whatever logic we want in here. I can send emails from here if I want. I can send text messages. I can do math operations. I can play a game on this computer if I want. It doesn't really matter. As long as I am able to send these files back to the browser. So we can do that with Python, or we can do that with other languages, like Node, like PHP, like Java. So we can write a server in any type of language. The only thing we can't really do is on the browser side. On the browser side, we have to use these 3 files because, well, at least in general terms, it can only understand JavaScript, which is another programming language. All right, let's explore this topic a little bit more in the next video. In the previous video, we learned that a browser simply sends a request to a server somewhere in the world over internet using the HTTPS protocol, and then it receives those JavaScript, HTML, and CSS files so that it's able to display a website. Now, how can we actually check this? Well, I can actually go to View, Developer, and this is using Google Chrome, so I recommend for this part, use Google Chrome so you can follow what I'm doing. If I go to Developer Tools here, it's going to open up a little box here with some information for me. Now, what I want to focus on is this Network tab. And this Network tab is going to tell us what type of information we receive from the server. If I refresh here, you'll notice that I get some data here. Now, you want to make sure that there's no filter involved. So we want to say over here that we want everything. So there's no filter, everything. There's no searching going on. And we can refresh again. And all right, we see a lot more files. But this looks intimidating. Let's think about what we just learned. We learned that we first get an HTML file, which happens to be this one. This is over here, type document. And if I click over here, this is an HTML document. So the response from the server, when I hit refresh, remember, it communicated to a server somewhere in the world that had these files on that computer. And here we have our HTML file. If I'll scroll down, look at that. We can see over here the webcomic of romance, sarcasm, math, and language, which is right over here. Remember how I said HTML is the text that gets displayed on a website? Well, this is our HTML here that the server responded with. And the browser knows how to read this and display the text. What about the CSS? Well, I can actually click on this CSS tab here, and it'll show me all the CSS files that came from the server. You see over here that this, again, looks a little bit different. It's in a different syntax than an HTML, but all it does here is it gives me the styles that I want. You can see over here, we can pick background color, we can pick different position, width, left position, and this gives us the styling that we want on a website. And then if we go to JavaScript, we actually see the JavaScript files that this website uses. Now, we don't have to worry about JavaScript here. JavaScript allows us to do some interactivity on this website that, for now, we probably don't need to worry about. Now, I do want to point out that there's a few other things in here, like image and media, and as you can see, images, we definitely have some images in here that we are using. If I click on preview, we can see the images. But at the end of the day, the concept is the same. We have an HTML file, which in our case is right over here. You see how the HTML file is displayed without CSS, which is just the textual data. We have the CSS, which is the styling of our page, and then some JavaScript to make our page interactive, and maybe some images. But at the end of the day, all these things are actually just textual data that we receive from the server. So that means that in order for us to be able to build our website, we need to create these 3 things: an HTML file, a CSS file, and a JavaScript file. Actually, we don't even need a JavaScript file if we don't want any interactivity. We don't even need a CSS file if we don't want any styling. We can even just use an HTML file. So in the next video, we're going to build our first website. I'll see you in that one. Bye-bye.
Building our first server.
Welcome back. Let's build our first website. Now, I've already created a folder called web server because this is going to be our web server for now. And inside of this web server, we have an index.html file, which will be the extension for creating an HTML file. We have script.js, which is the extension for writing JavaScript, just like we have .py for writing Python. And then we have style.css for writing CSS styles. Now, in this section, I'm going to be using Sublime Text and my iTerm terminal, but you can use whatever developer tool that you want. I like using these ones just for the screen recordings. They help because, well, it's nice and clean. It doesn't give me too many hints so that I can also make errors and show you along as I make errors how I fix them. But again, you can use Visual Studio Code, whatever you prefer. Now, you see over here that all these files are empty. But remember, a web server simply gives these 3 files to a browser so that the browser can display the page. So let's start off with HTML. How do we write HTML? Well, Sublime Text actually lets me do something interesting here. If I type in HTML and then hit tab, it autofills it for me. All right, I kind of cheated, but hey, I don't want to bore you to death. So this is a standard HTML file. Because I have the .html extension, if I have this type of syntax, I can write HTML. And it's not that difficult. We have opening tags and closing tags with a backslash here. So we have the head of the website with the title. So this is what appears on the tab. So let's say my website. Very creative. So that's the head, and then the body. This is what gets displayed on a website. So in here, I can say, I am a webmaster, just like that. And we've created our HTML file. Now, check this out. If I now open index.html, if I right-click here and let's say, open in new window, or you can even just go and double-click this file. So if I double-click this, look at that. I am a webmaster. Just simple text, nothing too crazy, but I've just created my first website. Let's continue with CSS. CSS has a different syntax than HTML. CSS syntax goes something like this. We can give it what HTML element we want to add some styling to. In our case, let's say body. And I can say body, then curly brackets. And in here, I want to have background, let's say color, and we'll go with, let's go with green. If I save this and I refresh the page, nothing happened. And this is a little small detail that, again, this isn't a web development course, so we don't need to worry too much about. But essentially, the very first thing that happens is that the HTML file gets sent. And the HTML file is actually the only thing that gets read by the browser. So within the HTML file, I have to say, hey, HTML, by the way, we also have a CSS file. Can you also use that in the website? So we can do that in the head tag by using something called a link tag. So a link tag, we can actually remove some of this. We simply have to say, hey, it's a type of text, CSS, and it has something called href. Href simply says, hey, where is this file located? In our case, because it's in the same folder as our index.html, we can simply say it's style.css because, well, just look for style.css and that's where the style file is. And now, if you remember, we also had the relationship style sheet that we need to include. I just removed it so that we can see what we're writing over here. So if we do style sheet, and this is just something, a syntax that you have to get used to if you want to include a CSS file. If I save this and go back and refresh, hey, look at that. My ugly website, let's make it a little bit bigger. My ugly website with a green background color now has some style. If I open up the developer tools once again, and I hit refresh, look at that. I get an HTML file and a CSS file. Awesome. So I just created my own web server, right? We could even write JavaScript here, but again, this isn't a JavaScript course, so we don't need to worry about it. In this case, here you go. I just wrote some JavaScript, which this is kind of like writing print in Python. If I refresh the page one more time, again, JavaScript file doesn't display because, well, we have to, again, tell index.html that we need a JavaScript file. And usually, JavaScript files are contained in a script tag, usually at the bottom of the body. So let's close that. And then in here, instead of using the href, we just have to say src for source. And then once again, where's the JavaScript file? It's at script.js. So if I save this and I refresh the page, look at that. We're now loading the script.js file. And all it's doing is if we click on the console tab is, there you go. It printed something in the console, and console is something that JavaScript uses. But all we care about is that we're able to serve these 3 files. What we've done is created our very first server. But you may have noticed something. When you went up over here, look at the URL path that we have. That's not what you usually type into a website, right? I mean, we saw that the website over here, xkcd.com, well, it has the .com, uses HTTP. That's a real URL, right? Well, I'm sorry to tell you that we didn't actually create a real web server because all we've done is we've served to the browser some files from, as you can see, from our computer. So all it's doing is the browser saying, hey, I'm going to display these files that are located right here on your computer. So essentially, we have a web server that's also running a browser, but that's not how real life works. Why would that be? Well, imagine if you had your own website. Do you really want to have people from all over the world access your website directly through your computer, grabbing the files from your computer? I mean, no, right? There's a lot of security issues. There's a lot of issues with performance. You have to keep your laptop on the entire time so people can access your website. Instead, we want a web server, which, as the name suggests, serves files and specializes in serving files to browsers somewhere in the world. I don't have to worry about. It's not on my computer. Somebody owns that machine. Somebody owns that computer. And it's on all the time so that whenever we go to a website or a link, it's always going to be running and sending those files out. So we're finally going to get back to Python here. Because what we want to do is do something more sophisticated than just having these files on our machine. Instead, we want to build a real server using Python that we can deploy so that people can access our website anywhere in the world. Now, you might still be confused. This whole process might not make complete sense to you because we're just getting started. But don't worry, by the end of it all, it's all going to make sense. So let's forget about the browser for now and get into building a real server. Something more sophisticated than what we've done up until now, which is just a folder with these 3 files, and we just double-click on index.html. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Okay. I guess up to now, everything seems to be, well, just an overview.
Real server.
An overview of how websites work. Well, I already knew that. And I've been working, and I did an exercise years ago. I believe it was 2019. And they asked me to build a basic RESTful API using on Python, and I choose the Flask library in order to do that. Yeah, I do remember that.
Now, what should we do here first? Your first intuition might say, I wonder if Python has a module already for that. Well, if you actually Google Python HTTP server, you see that, look at that, Python seems to have an HTTP server. Awesome. And this module actually allows us to create a server. You can see over here that all we need to do is use the HTTP server,
Interesting.
and we have ourselves a server. You can actually read through the documentation and see how you can build one. You can see over here, for example, that it's a simple couple of lines to create a server. However, if I scroll all the way up, there's a warning here. HTTP server is not recommended for production. It only implements basic security checks.
Oh, okay.
Building servers is a very, very common thing. A lot of Python developers are hired as backend engineers to build things like this.
Yeah.
So when we use something like the HTTP server that's built in as part of the Python standard library, well, we're redoing all these things that, frankly, a lot of developers have done before. And when you have a problem that is constantly getting solved, or the problem is constantly being rewritten and rewritten,
Yeah, somebody else
have something called
has already.
libraries, but also something called frameworks. That is, instead of using
Frameworks.
something that, well, frankly, would take us a really long time to do, and as you can see here, there's still a lot of issues, like security issues, that we need to check and fix, we can use a framework, like Flask, to build a server because so many engineers are building servers using Python. Flask is a tool that uses, perhaps underneath the hood, something like HTTP server, but instead, make sure that the security, the added tools and benefits are already pre-built for us. You can think of it as a kitchen. You're trying to bake a cake, and instead of you having to go buy the knife, go buy the bowl, the mixer, the oven, go buy the ingredients, all that stuff, Flask is like the kitchen where you get to enter the kitchen, you have all the tools necessary, you have the ingredients, and all you have to do is cook. Now, when it comes to Python, there's two really popular frameworks. There's the Flask framework and the Django framework, right over here. Now, Django is one of those frameworks that it's really, really big. It's a big, big kitchen. On the other hand, Flask is what we call a micro framework. That is, it's extremely lean, it's a small library, so that you can
framework.
do things fast. I'm going to teach Flask over the next couple of videos because I like the simplicity of it all. Sometimes when you write in Django, it feels like you're not even writing Python because there's so many rules and so many tools that you can use. Versus with Flask, everything is clean and small, and it's great for our use. So how do we get started? Well, as you know by now, as with any tool that we use, we should read the documentation, right? And in our case, we can just go to installation and actually read through and see what they recommend. You see over here that they recommend we use a virtual environment, something that we've already talked about in previous lesson. And you'll see why this is important when we actually deploy the project to production. But it looks like we first create an environment, so we make a directory, a project directory, which hopefully we already have, and then we create a virtual environment. Now, one thing I haven't told you is that if you use Python 3, which if you're following this course, you already are using, it comes pre-built with something called venv. So instead of pipenv or virtual env that I talked about in the previous video on virtual environments, this comes pre-built. So we can actually just run this command in our terminal. So let's give it a go. And look at that. A new virtual environment folder was just created. Now, you see over here that the virtual environment was created, well, in a new folder called venv. If we actually leave out the first part, or the last venv, or actually, let's go back one directory, and simply say Python 3-m venv, and then say web server.
Ah, the second argument is
The
what?
web server now becomes the virtual.
The second argument is the location to create the virtual environment. Generally, you can just create this in your project and call it VM. VM will create a virtual Python installation in the VM folder. Okay. Actually, I may like to try that one. Cheat. Okay, so I may like to make I am on main. Check out. This is going to be the web development branch. Oh wait, I forgot about the B option. There we go. Section 19. I need the reverse. What's the name of this again? With Python. Okay, so here I should be running there we go. This is BN documentation, and there we go. So I guess it should be this. And they just repeated BM for the virtual environment. It's taking some time. There we go. I wonder what's inside. Oh, look at that. There is a bin folder. I guess that is where everything is going to be installed. Okay, I already did that. What else?
Server. The web server now becomes the virtual environment because we already have the folder built. So we don't want a new folder called virtual environment. We can just delete that.
Wait, what?
And instead have the virtual environment right over here. Now, it also gives you the option on how to do it on Windows. So again, on Windows, you might have to run Pi.
Well, I'm going to leave it
or
as
using
is.
Python 2, and you don't have the VNV module. In that case, well, you have to use virtual environment.
Virtual,
And then
VM.
finally, we have to activate the environment. And all we need to do if you're on Mac or Linux is just grab this code, or on Windows, grab this. So let's just copy.
Okay, it's dot bm bin activate. Okay, I guess dot bm bin activate. There we go. So the environment is active. Yes.
Paste this. If I paste it in here, let's talk about what it's doing. Here, we have to change this to where our folder is. In our case, we're doing the web server, right? So I'm going to say web.
Well,
/space
he
server.
changed the name
Because,
of
well,
the
that's
folder,
we wanna
but
go
I
to.
not.
And inside of the bin folder, right here, we
Okay.
have the activate executable. So all we're saying is, hey, run this executable.
Okay. So
You don't need to
now
worry about
what?
what it does, but if I run this, we get a bit of an error. Now, the issue here is that I'm using something called a fish shell. And the reason I'm showing you this is because everybody's machine is different. So whether you're on Windows or Mac or Linux, or maybe you're using a different type of terminal, you might get these errors. Now, the best way to solve these is if you go to the VNV Python module, and if you scroll all the way down, you'll see here that you can activate using certain scripts, but it depends on which shell you're using. Most of you are using PowerShell in Windows or Bash
Bash.
in Mac.
Well.
In my case, I'm using this, fish. So all I need to do is actually add this .fish at the end of my script. You'll notice here that you might have to add different things based on what you're using. So
Because
if you're on
he's
Windows, you might
using
go to
something else.
or .ps1. So let's try that again. I'm going to run the same thing, but this time say .fish. There you go. It's now working, and I'm in the web
If you are
server, which
on
is
a Mac,
folder in the virtual environment.
I believe
So
they
now
are
what this whole package is here
using.
and just be in my own little world. Now, if for some reason activating doesn't work for you, you can actually still keep going with the lectures. It won't really affect you. This is just one of those things that's a
BSD
little complex. You might not
alternate
get it straight away, but the
distro.
best thing to do is to always read the documentation and follow the instructions.
Okay.
All right, that took an unnecessarily long time. So let's finish off by installing Flask. If we go back to our guide, we can finally install Flask by doing pip install Flask. Now again, we want to make sure that our pip, if we do
Three.
version, is for Python 3.7. But for
Okay. Let me make sure of that. Oh wait, he say pip. I am for 310. It's the same, but I might like to follow along, I guess, with pip3.
some of you, you might have to use pip 3. So based on your needs, make sure you use the appropriate pip installer. Let's clear this, and just copy and paste and install Flask.
Wait, you are going way too fast there. Flask documentation. The website changed a little bit. Installation. Virtual environments. Okay. Active. There we go. I'm going to do it with pip3. Install Flask. There we go. Looks like and I'm working on a virtual environment already, so that's great. Leave it on Edge. This is something else. No, I don't need it. This is for Python 2 anyway. Okay.
Awesome. We've just installed Flask, so we can start using it in our project. But
Okay.
there's a whole lot of setup and a lot of downloading, so let's take a break, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Building a Flask server. Okay.
Oh boy, wasn't that last lesson super, super fun with all that installation and setup and errors? Hopefully, things will be a lot better as we move along. That was, I would say, the hardest part. We're back here at the Flask framework. And the next thing we want to do is we want to go to the quick start guide. And I know I could just code along and show you exactly how it is, but I really want to show you the process of how you work as a developer, because once you're done with this course, you're going to be out in the world and you should know how to learn something new. let's say at the next job, somebody says, hey, I want you to use Django instead of Flask. How do you learn it? Well, you read the documentation. So I just clicked on the quick start because I just want to build a server really, really quick. And you see here that the minimal application is, well, it looks like this. So let's just copy the code from here and we'll talk about it line by line, don't worry. So I'm going to close off these index files, the script files, and the CSS files. We're in our virtual environment. Let's clear this. And we can actually just create a new file. So in our web server, let's just say new file, and I'm going to say server.py. So we have a new Python file, and we're going to copy and paste that code.
Okay.
So we're installing, or we already
From
installed
Flask, import Flask.
And then we do this funny thing called equals
app
Flask,
equals
and we
Flask.
use the Flask class to instantiate an app. And we do this __ name. Now, when something is confusing, I always like knowing
it's
what happened. So I'm just
confusing.
going to run __ name here and actually just print it out so we know what it is. And for now, let's just comment out the bottom part of this. Just click save. I want to find out what this name is.
That's a decorator
Let's see if we can run this file. I'm going to say Python 3 and simply say
with a lot of things.
.py. Oh, and we're in the desktop right now, so let's cd into web server. Let's clear and run that again. So Python 3 server.py, and there you go.
It's main.
So our name in this case is main. And why is that? Well, because this is the main file that we're running. It shouldn't really be a surprise, right? So we've created an instance of a Flask app, or set up our Flask app, and this is our app. And when we run it from our command line, it sets the name as the main. So that's the name of our app, essentially.
Okay.
All right, so we've created our app, our Flask app, and then we see that we're using
A decorator.
is a decorator, right? We learned about this. Again, one of the cool things about frameworks is that they give you what we call a higher level of abstraction. That means we don't necessarily need to know what this is doing, what the code is doing underneath. We just know that this app.route decorator gives us some extra tools for us to build a server. In this case,
that's
it's
a
going to say
weird
anytime we
decorator.
/ or what we call the root. I want you to define a function called hello world and return hello world. But let's go back to the documentation. Now, one thing I want to note here is that when you call your Python file, make sure you don't call it flask.py because this would actually conflict with Flask itself. So name it server.py or hello.py, whatever you want, just in case you get that error. Now, the next part is to actually run our application, our Flask application. Now, there's one other trick here that we need to do. We need to run the Flask run command. So Flask also gives us a command line run to actually run our server. But we also see here that we need to export. Let's make this a little bit bigger. We need to export Flask app equals to hello.py. And as you can see here, we just need to give it that environment variable. So Flask app, just like this. And if you're on Windows or PowerShell, it shows you what commands to run. Again, I'll link to this resource so that you can copy and paste as well. In my case, I'll just do export. So copy and paste here.
Okay, I might need to create that first. Okay. Let's go back. Let's go. I think it's here in Quick Start. Okay, let's take a break. Come on. Oh, that was a mistake.
¡Ya! ¡Eso es!
Okay. I was charging. What?
¡Seguí escuchando!
Por supuesto.
Protegeré Irule. ¡Con este poder!
And you're dead.
La victoria es mía.
Okay, let's see. What is it? Ah, yeah, I need to go back. Yeah, it's going to take some time to break all those camps with Zelda because I need to war with her, but I guess I have time. Because Zelda has the weapon to... Whoa! Where are you going?
Protegeré Irule.
And there we go. Okay, that's one. You cannot see the minimap, but I can. That's the important thing. And here is the second one. Oh, nice. Some apples. Be careful.
Protegeré. Irule.
Yeah, I think Zelda charges up her special pretty fast, so I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Por poco. Se acabó.
And I think he's dead. Maybe.
Aquí.
There we go. He does a lot of damage now.
Con este poder. Vamos a ver.
Whoa, nice.
Estoy bien.
Oh, that was an apple inside. Oh wait, I haven't activated the guardian thing here.
Allá.
The generator. Ancient generator, okay. I can destroy that, but oh wait, does this give me weapons? No. Okay, now I have to run back, way back. I might like to do all that with Zelda because she has this weapon over here, which allows me to find better weapons. But the thing is, I need to play as Zelda all the time.
Mi poder me acompaña.
And that's my signal. Let's go back to work. Okay. Oh, look at this. It's already ignoring that. Yeah, all that is ignore. Perfect. I don't need to add anything to the ignore. How did he call it? The file, I mean. Server pi, okay. Server.py. And this is the file. It should be already imported. Why not? That's weird. I already have Python installed, so I don't know what's here is Flask. Oh wait, yeah, he actually mentioned it. Here I need to say I need to run this. Okay. Let's see here. There we go. So this is the command. I wonder if that's enough. Server.py seems to be is not being detected neither. Oh wait, maybe it's in the wrong folder. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Okay. The import statement is still failing. I don't know why. What's that about? I don't really know what's that about. Yeah, okay. But in this case, I already have access to this. And I think there is an update. I wonder if there is a way to actually use the to avoid having to download the dev package because it's a chore. Look all those Visual Studio Code packages from the past. Okay, at least it's not taking too long. The update, that is. Okay, it's installing. I guess I'm going to need to close this thing. It's still installing. There we go. Installation complete. And I think I just need to do this. Check for updates. I'm currently using the latest version. Yeah, I don't know what's this about. Okay, let's try.
And instead of hello.py, I'm going to name it server.py.
Oh,
And then we can do,
I don't think I did that. Okay.
Flask run. Now, another
Okay.
option is to actually do python-m Flask run. But since we created a virtual environment, we should be able to run Flask.
Okay, Flask run. Okay, I guess I can just open this. Hello world. Oh, what? It's very small, but here it is. Hello world. So the server is running properly. Okay. Yeah, I believe it was like 3 years ago. But I still remember following some tutorials.
All right. We get a little warning. This is a development server. Do not use it in production deployment. All right, that's good. We don't need to worry about because we're not doing production right now. This is just something on our computers.
Yeah.
We see here that it's running on HTTP 127.0.0.1. This is the standard. It's what we call a local host. This is the
Local
URL
host.
or the address of the laptop I'm working on. And for you, that's the same thing with port 5000. So if I copy this and open this up, what? Look at that. Are you
It's
kidding?
hello
We
world.
just created our server with hello world. Where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from this, right?
Return
Slash
hello
says,
world.
hey, anytime we do the root directory, so this is like saying here, slash here. Anytime
Yeah.
the browser requests for this endpoint, it's going to hit our server, and look at that, it's actually logging out that
That's colon
127.0.0.1
endpoint.
is us. We logged this entry.
The
app
home
browser is going to say,
endpoint.
hey, somebody needs some of our resources, some files, some data. What should we do? Well, we have this hello world function that we're going to run, and we're going to run by returning hello world. That's right, we just created our very first server. Just to prove that I'm not making this up, let's put your own name on it, refresh, and oh, I'm refreshing and it's not working. And that is because you see here that I'm actually making these requests, but the changes haven't been saved. We actually have
Yeah.
to do control or command C, that's clear, and run the server again.
Yeah, I think
So
there
now,
is a
if I
way
refresh,
to refresh
really
the
cool.
server.
And I also want to show you that, see here how it says serving flask app server.py? Remember when we ran the command,
Yeah.
this, where we used flask app equals server.py? This is what it's saying. We are able to do what we call an environmental variable and set flask app, which is going to get displayed here as server.py. So I could have called our app whatever we want. So if I go back here and just say super duper, and I run, you see that my flask app
Yeah.
is super duper. Now, the other thing I don't like is the fact that every time I make a change, I have to restart the server.
Yeah.
You can see here that the debug mode is off. I can actually turn on the debug mode by doing something like this. Once again, we use the environment variable, and if we go to debug mode in our documentation here, you can see here that if we do flask env equals development, which again, instead of the
Okay.
flask app, we'll say env equals development, and I run this again, you see that I'm now in the debug mode on.
Okay.
This is something that we use, again, just Flask specific, to make sure that it's in development mode. And what this does is, watch this, as I change this and save it. I go back and refresh. Oh, and I get an error. Again, this is one of the cool things with the debugger. So if I make this a little smaller, I get an error
Okay.
saying, hey, cannot import super duper. Well,
Oh, yeah.
because I just changed the name from super duper.
Yeah, because he's not finding it. Okay. But first, let's see the documentation for that. Okay. Debug mode. There we go. It's in debug mode. Okay. The server is still up. Let's make a change. And now refresh. There we go. It's working.
but it's actually trying to import this server.py, and well,
Okay, so far so good. We're doing
I
great.
only changed it just to show you what it does. So we can actually,
Yeah.
again, the debug mode, as you can see, gives us a lot of information. So I'm going to close the server, fix my silly name from superduper to server.py. All right, we're all good. And then we're going to Flask run. All right, let's go back and refresh. And there you go. Everything's all good. But the cool part is that now, if I change this to just hello, save, notice how the server, notice the changes. You see over here, it detected changes, and automatically change things for me. So if I refresh, look at that. I don't have to restart the server and everything is working. Awesome. We have our basic server, but we still have a bit more to go because we want to get to the point where we can actually serve important information like HTML files, CSS files, and JavaScript files. Let's explore that a little bit more in the next video.
Okay. Templates. Interesting. Okay.
Welcome back. So we have our, well, frankly, really boring website, but we created our server. But what else can we do? A server usually accepts a request from the browser, right? Now, up until now, we've done what we call a root route. That is the home route. Because in here, we haven't written anything. But sometimes in a website, you might see something like blog, right? And if I hit enter, you see that not found. The URL was not found on the server. Again, that's because right now our server is only waiting to hear for the root request. But if we type something like blog, well, there's no function here that cares about that. So it sees that there's nothing to care about and moves on. So let's create a blog route as well. I'm going to copy and paste and just say that, hey, we want to listen to the blog endpoint. This is going to be called, let's call it blog, and say, these are my thoughts on blogs. If I save, again, we have the
Well, you're
so I'm
returning
gonna
just
start. If I refresh
text.
now, look at
Yeah.
that. These are my thoughts on blogs. And if I go to the root directory, I get hello. We now have multiple routes. How cool
We
is that?
had multiple
By the way, if we
routes.
open up the developer tools, go to developer tools, open up the network, and just refresh here. You see that we're getting a document. Ignore this part. This is just the developer tools that I have. But this is what we get back. We just get a simple document, a response, which is a text.
A simple
And if I go to
text.
headers, and I actually scroll down, you see that I requested this URL. I got a status of 200. And I see here that the content type
Yes.
the server responded with was something called text HTML. Now, this is something that Flask does for us. You see over here that I just sent a string.
Yes,
Flask
string.
automatically converts that to HTML so that the browser
Converts
can understand it.
that. Okay.
As a matter of fact, if I go to elements here, you see
Oh,
here that
it's a
I have my
page.
HTML with a body of hello inside. So that's something that we get automatically, which is really, really nice. But now we can start doing some really neat things. For example, let's create another route. And this time, let's say I want the blog from, let's say, 2020 about dogs. Can I do that? Well, yeah, absolutely. Let's say blog 2. And this says, this is my dog. Very engaging blog post. So now, if I go back, I do blog. All right, I get that. If I do blog 2020, let's say dogs, I get this is my dog. Awesome. So I can have multiple routes like this. What if I remove this and have 2 blogs? The same endpoint.
The first one is going to be
back
served, I
And
guess.
just go to blog. I get, these are my thoughts on blogs. Because once it hits a route that it sees,
Yeah.
which on line 9 it sees, it will do
Returns
automatically
and
just
ends,
forget about
yeah.
the rest. So let's bring our dog's blog post back. But you know what's a shame? Because we have this beautiful website, I'm being sarcastic here, this beautiful HTML website that we created with CSS and JavaScript. Wouldn't it be nice if instead of me just sending out text, I can actually send those? Could I do that? Well, yeah, you can. You see, Flask has another thing called render_template. And this render template function is going to allow us to actually send the HTML file. So let's say the home route now, instead of hello, is going to do something different. Instead, it's going to run the render template function that comes with Flask. And in here, we give
you
it
need to
the
pass something, I
HTML
guess.
file that we have.
Index.
So we can give it a
Okay.
route. In our case, because it's in the same folder
It's
as the server
index
file, we can just do
HTML.
index.html. Fine,
Okay.
run this. Let's see if this works. If I go back to my home route, I get an error. Let's read the error. Template not found, index.html. So it tried to look for index.html, and it didn't find it.
Yeah, but
That's
this
not it.
is in
What if we
the...
do a // which means current directory, grab the index.html. If I save and refresh, I still get the error. Again, this is another thing that you have to just learn as you read the documentation. But the reason that this is not working is because Flask automatically, when you say render template, tries to look in a folder called templates. So let's create that. I'm going to say
Oh,
new folder, call it templates, and put all my HTML files, in this case, the single HTML file that I have, I'm going to say move, and put it in the templates folder. So now it's in here.
oh, okay.
Save, go back, and refresh. And look at that. I am a webmaster.
Okay, let me try that one. Yeah, I don't remember that because oh yeah, because I was building RESTful APIs. Yeah, and everything was in memory, really. So okay, fine. I guess. Oh, the mouse died again. So I guess I'm going to need to create a new folder here called templates, and create an index.html. In VS Code, I think it's this. There we go. Well, let's say just homepage. And in the body, I may like to say, you know what, maybe an h1. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I guess that's it. So if I go back to server, I might need to. Oh, it's from the same. It's not finding anything like that. That's weird. There we go. So here's the code. Plus import. Okay, so it's called render template. That's the first part, the import. And then I'm going to need, let's copy paste this one. Let's copy paste that one. And you are going to be, oh, so I can land 2 or more routes to the same thing. I get it. I kinda get it now. I guess I'm going to be learning more about that later. Maybe like this. Oh, name none. Yeah, probably I don't need to make my life complicated right now. Maybe I just need to app route, hello world, render template index. Okay. No parameters. And just return the render template without passing anything else. Interesting. And this should be it. So let's try again. And there we go. It's working. Okay. Well, actually, I may like to make 2 new commits. Yeah, something like that. There we go. Okay, we are doing great so far.
Go back and refresh. And look at that. I am a webmaster. Everything is working. If I go to blog, I get these are my thoughts on blogs, but my HTML file that I've created is working perfectly. How awesome is that? And Flask uses this idea of templates to add multiple HTML files. So for example, I can create a new file. Let's just say duplicate here. So I'm going to duplicate this file and call it about.html. And this about.html is going to say about me. And let's go into server.py and have the root folder as index.html. And perhaps add another route, say about.html. And yes, I can do that as well. And in here, we'll grab the about.html. Let's call it whatever we want. Let's say about function. And if I go back, go to about, well, it's not going to work because remember I added the .html. There you go, about me. Awesome, this is great. We're starting to learn about different routes and how servers work. And we're able to send our HTML file. But what about the JavaScript files and the CSS files? How can we do that? In the next video, we'll find out.
Okay.
Welcome back. Let's figure out how to add CSS and JavaScript to, well, our index.html.
Okay.
Because if you remember, we are using script and CSS in here. Now, once again, with Flask, if we go to, let's say, CSS, we see that there's static files. Static files simply means it's a file that's never going to change. That is, CSS and JavaScript, usually once we send them out, they're not going to change. They're static. And you see over here that with Flask, we have to store the files on the file system as static/style.css. So we need to create a static folder. Again, this is something that you just have to get used to, but let's say in here, we'll create, just like we did with templates, we're going to create a static folder so that the Flask app knows to look in here for CSS and JavaScript files. So I'm going to move the JavaScript file to the static folder and do the same with the CSS file. So once again, move that to static. Now, if I just save this and run, you'll see that it won't actually work.
No, I need to
Well, why is that?
put the reference on the
Again, because we
HTML
haven't talked
file.
much about HTML and CSS and JavaScript. Don't worry if you didn't get this. But if you remember, in our index.html file, we referenced these files inside of here. But the file paths have now changed. They're now
Oh yeah,
static folder,
static folder.
like this. So I have to say static
That should work.
.js. If I now go back and refresh, hey,
There
look
we
at that.
go.
My beautiful green website for
Let me try that because I think that's important. Okay. So down here, I need a static folder. I wonder if he's giving us the resources for that. No. Well, I can do one, I guess. Styles.css. Okay. I guess I don't even remember how to. Let me see. H1. I'm writing as a basic selector. Color white maybe, and P. Well, H1 and P. Why not? And body maybe background color something darker, maybe this. And Java, I don't have nothing for JavaScript, but I may like to try this first. Okay, so it's in the head. Okay, link CSS is a style. Okay, I'm going to rename this just to comply with the naming. Okay, with the naming nomenclature. Style sheet is coming from the static folder. And that should be working. There we go, it's working. Okay, we are on the same place.
let's say this is Christmas website, is now working. If I open up the developer tools, go to network and refresh, hey, check that out. I have my document, then I have my JS file, and why is there no CSS? Let me refresh again.
I don't know.
There it is, right over there. We have style, CSS, we have JS, and we have the document. Awesome. If you're wondering why we're getting this little favicon error, favicon is the little icon that shows up on tabs over here, so we can actually add our own favicon if we wanted to. Instead, images. And the way we would do that is to, again, in our endpoint, let's, instead of the blog, I'm going to say favicon.ico for icon, and we can just send it an image. How do we go about doing this? I'm going to show you the answer in the next video, but I want you to give it a try and figure out how we can send an image back to this endpoint so that we don't get this.
I don't
when a
know.
browser automatically requests for this, which all browsers do. It's going to show up a little icon over here for us. So pick whatever icon you want and see if you can solve it. In the next video, I'll show you the answer.
Okay, let me pause it. Yeah, I need an icon. Yeah. Well, I think it's the same. Yeah, this looks good. What is the EPUB? EPUB MLID ICO 32 pixels. What? Okay. I guess it goes inside the static folder. I'm going to name it Fab icon, favorite icon. There we go. Okay, I already had one. I guess he's going to teach
Were you able
me
to
just
figure it
that.
I just Googled around for some free .ico icons, and I really, really like this lightning bolt one, so I've just downloaded it as an ICO. And now it's in my folder over here as bolt.ico. Now, how were you able to solve this? If your first instinct was to Google for it, well, good job. That's what you want to do as a developer. You see over here that, well, Flask has documentation on how we can use it.
Okay.
Now, there's two ways to do it. We have this link way and a way that works with older browsers as well. Now, this syntax might not be obvious to you, but let's use this method, and then I'm going to show you what it actually does. So let's just copy and paste. So we go into our index.html, and in our link tag, I'm going to add this. So let's make this a little bit bigger so we can see, and maybe a little smaller so that everything is in here. And we see here that we have the syntax that we haven't seen before that's actually going to be used with Flask that we're going to talk about. But we see here that it's going to be for the static folder, and the file name is going to be favicon.ico. But
Oh, it's a dictionary.
So let's just call it bolt.ico. That's the file name. And it should be in the static folder. So I'm going to move this
Inside the static.
into the static folder. Just like that.
I figured
if I
that
just-
much.
Save here. I can actually comment this out, hit save, and see what happens. If I go back to my website and I refresh, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
You see how I have a little bolt here? You see that the bolt.ico is now on my website. How cool is
That's
that?
one
And I
way.
didn't really do anything crazy. I didn't even have to have an endpoint, which is really, really cool. Again, Flask, because a favicon is something so common, just makes it super easy for us so we don't have to clutter our code with a favicon endpoint. So I can just remove this. But you know what? I'm not a big fan of doing things without understanding them. And right now, what we just did here seems really, really strange.
Yeah,
Where is
it
this
looks
URL
weird.
pointing coming from? What's with this double?
It's a method.
In the next video, we're going to find out what all of this means.
Okay.
Welcome back. What is this weird syntax?
Oh,
for us
that's
to
the way to
understand
go then. Okay. I wasn't sure, but I guess. Okay, let's look for favicon. What? Okay. No. Okay, time for another break. Okay, I need to run straight forward.
¡Lo hice!
Well, I'm going to be running a long way back. But it's okay because I don't really have whoa. I don't really have
¡Irule!
a timer going on here, so it's okay. Something I may like to have is access to this. Or just to stay around here. Yeah.
¡Ya!
And I need to go straight forward. Well, actually, I don't really need to kill all of them, but I guess it's more money.
Mi poder me acompaña. ¡Se acabó! ¡Al ataque! ¡Oh, soy fuerte!
So I guess the idea is to do this, then this.
¡Oh, soy fuerte! ¡Se acabó! ¡Al ataque!
Yeah, maybe it's jump back and forth between the regular mode and then power mode. Well, here's the first one. Hello.
Protegeré. Irule. Se acabó. Prepárense.
Whoa.
Luchando. Protegeré. Irule.
I almost died there. And here we go.
Irule. La victoria es mía. Así.
And now we go to the left. Well, I should go straight for the objective anyway. Oh, wow.
Eso es.
Oh, that's a lot of damage for a single shot. Hello. Oh,
Luchando. Lo veo.
there we go. About time I gave one of those because the timing is really tricky.
¡Hielo!
Is it dead? No. It ain't dead. So it's going to be...
Irule.
I wonder if I'm close to leveling up. Sort of.
¡Hielo!
Whoa. Okay. I thought I was losing that one, but no.
Prepárense.
Okay, so looks like I reached the same section that he was looking at. Let me see. Wow. Well, they need to work on how to remove the left part anyway. So I need to replace this. For now, you have processed the correct way, for example. That's all you need for most browsers. However, some really old ones do not support this standard. The old de facto standard is to serve this file with this name at the website root. Well, I guess this is going to be enough for me. Because today is not really that required, or is it? Well, it depends, I guess. For in this case, I'm going to need Favicon, the static folder, I guess. And that should be it. Let me see. Let's try out the home page again. And there we go. I see the icon there. So it looks like it works. That should be enough.
Understand this idea of a templating language. You see, the power of Flask is the fact that we can build things dynamically. What do I mean by this? Well, let's assume that in the body tag here, I write 2 curly brackets like this. If I do in here 4 plus 5, and I save.
That's Python.
Let's go back to our website with our cool lightning bolt, and let me close this for now. If I refresh, I get.
Oh.
Is that what you expect? How is that possible? Because if you're wondering, this isn't HTML. If I did this,
No, that's not
it will
HTML.
just show the actual curly brackets, 4 plus 5.
Ah.
Something is
So
happening.
it's a function. It's returning
Curly brackets
something.
and says, oh,
It's
this
getting the URL
is a Python
for
expression.
something in the
that actually
status
evaluates.
folder
And this is actually
called
the thing
bol.icon.
with Flask.
Now I get
Underneath
it.
the hood, it uses something called Jinja, a templating language. It's a way
what?
for us to do this, and Flask comes built in with that. So if we look at the Favicon, what we just did is we've used Jinja to say, hey, I want you to evaluate this as Python. So if I copy this, and I go to server.py, and in here,
It's going
I
to
just do
get us.
and paste this in.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the same
going
thing
to
that we
get
have
us the
before.
URL.
Except for we now need the URL 4 that comes
Oh.
with Flask. Let's move this here. Actually.
URL 4.
Inside of the
Oh,
web.
interesting.
If I refresh, I see over here that I get static bolt.ico.
Bolt.ico.
So it's printing the actual URL static slash bolt.ico. Now, I could just technically have copy and pasted this and just done this whole thing as a string instead of using URL4. But if you go to the documentation of Flask, it talks about URL4 and why it's a good idea to build a URL instead of hard-coding them, and it gives you actual reason of why you might do that.
Yeah,
Just think of it as a simpler way
it's
to
way
build
better.
URLs. So that's all we're doing. We're essentially saying grab the bolt.ico from the static folder, and we're able to do this through this templating language. Very, very cool. And now we have an extra power in
I
our.
don't need to change the
That is,
template.
we're now able to dynamically update parts of the page. What do I mean by this?
Ooh.
Imagine if our super cool website,
Yeah.
when I actually refresh here,
I need
gives
to
me the
combine
username
that with
of the person.
databases.
For example, if I request for the blog of Andre, and I hit run, ideally it'll say, hi Andre, and then maybe show my blog post. Using Flask, we can do that. And let's find out how to do that in the next video.
Okay. URL parameters, great.
Welcome back. Flask has this other tool called variable rules that we haven't talked about. And what variable rules allows us to do is to do something like this, dynamic. So for example, /user / with these greater than and less than signs and the username. Now we'll get back to this in a second and some of this syntax. But if we go back, what we can do here in our server.py is perhaps, let's remove this because we don't need it anymore. Inside of our hello world, let's say that we want name in here. Or in our case, username.
Okay.
Now, the neat thing is that Flask is going to look at this and say, oh, this is something that we can pass on into this function.
Yes.
So I can now say username equals the username that we receive. So let's say username. And let's just change this to name just so you see what the differences are. So I'm passing whatever I receive here into the hello world name parameter. And now in my index.html, I can pass on this data by simply doing a second parameter and saying name equals to name. So now if I save this, go back to my index.html and put in name in here.
Name.
And if I go back to our homepage, if we go to our homepage, and I made a little mistake here, this should be over here. So it's saying username from up here
Username,
is going to
yeah.
equal a default if we want. So it's usually a good idea to have a default. I'll just
None.
So that
Okay.
username now is going to be username in here,
Username.
like this. If I save, go back, I get a not found because we don't have a homepage anymore. But anytime I do, let's say Andre, I get Andre on my page, I get Bob and my good friend Sally. How cool is
Okay.
that? So it's able to read the URL and pass in data.
Ooh.
And if we go to our Flask documentation and we go to variable rules, you see that we have different rules that we can apply. For example, we can actually require to accept a positive integer or a string or a float, a path, so it accepts slashes, or something called UUID, which is kind of like a unique identifier. So let's try that. Let's do a post ID here, or in our case, let's just copy this and say I also want the username, and then perhaps accept some sort of a number. So instead of post ID, maybe it could be, I don't know, actually post ID is
integer.
let's keep it like that. And let's make this a little bit bigger. Now in here, the second parameter can be the post ID. That's going to equal to none to begin with. And we're also going to pass this as post ID. That's going to equal the post ID.
Okay.
Go to index.html. And in here, let's do name. And then we'll also do the post ID in here.
Okay, I guess.
And I refresh. Well, again, because we've made our URL very specific, we'll just have to give some sort of a number. And look at that,
Yeah.
Sally 2. So
We
that's
need
our
to
second blog
pass
post.
a number.
And fifth blog post, so on and so forth.
Okay.
And if I do something that's not a number, so if I do some string, I get not found because I've made the rule using this syntax, so int with the colon, saying that this has to be an ID. And I passed data down this way.
Okay.
So now we've created a full-out server. We now are able to use URLs to communicate with the server and ask for specific data for it to receive. Our server, based on what URL parameters we give it, or endpoints, is able to decide what resource to send to the front end so that it can display the appropriate information.
Okay, let me try that one then. Variable rules, thank you. Well, here it is. Here is an example, but he's not using that specifically. What? Okay, is that it? No. Oh yeah, because I guess he's linking me to a previous version that he was using. Okay, so quick start. I guess he is on quick start. Quick start. Okay, debug mode. I already was doing that. There we go. Okay, he's returning a string in this case. But I may like to render something. So let's see how was he doing it. Okay, I'm going to create. I may like to create a new route and not just spam the original root folder. apt route. Okay, let's try that one. Let's copy this then. apt route, and he's using this nomenclature username. Let's try username first. So this is a URL parameter for what I understand, and then a function name. Hello username. Yeah, because I cannot reuse the same name for the function. The function is going to get the parameters for that. Okay, so user name is going to be to none. This is pretty much null in Python. And I'm going to return whatever the render template is going to do. But I'm going to pass a list of args. In this case, if he's saying name, username, well, let's keep it that way. Nah, let's use, well, name, I guess, username, and well, nothing else for this in this moment. But I need to get back here, and I wonder if I can just, well, I'm using index in this case. I wonder if I can just well, let's try something here. Let's try an h3, an h3. Yeah, I want an h3, bro. Okay, and here I can create this, isn't it? No. And here, name. Was that it? Yeah, it's called name inside. So here, and that's it, I guess. This is going to be part of the template. I wonder if this is going to exist. Either of not. Well, I don't know. Okay, let's try out. It's already saved, so I might just need to refresh the page. Well, this is the root one. If I do that, I should touch the next endpoint. There we go. So it's working as intended. And probably I should need to add something else. This is the well, I'm using the page, and maybe I could try to just to try out. I could say here post ID or ID post. I don't remember the name. Post ID. Okay. Post ID. Let's try to work our way out of that with post ID, okay? So here, I guess I just need to add another argument here. Well, I'm defining, so this is a parameter actually, so it's going to be post ID. It's going to be none. And on the list of args, I'm going to add post ID going to be equal to post ID. In this case, the argument and the parameter share the same name. So there we go. I wonder what's less confusing, that they share the same name, or that I change the name from the template on the function itself. But I don't know. And for this, in order for this to work, actually I might like to. I should have done that before. Yeah, I need to remove things now from this. I'm going to that, and let's remove that one. There we go. So I'm getting different endpoints, so I'm not touching the same. I'm using the same template, but I'm not touching the same endpoints. Okay. Post ID. Okay, so this should be it, and I'm going to need. Oh wait. Post ID. There we go. And now I have a new endpoint. And if I do this, there we go. Oh wait, something broke. Why? Why are you breaking there? It's rendering correctly because I'm getting the value and this. But by some reason, did I change something wrong here? What did I do here? Well, the post ID is here. Nothing else changed, so let's extract this from here. And maybe this. No, it's failing again. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Oh, look at that. Looks like only the last endpoint is getting that issue. There we go. Yeah, only the last endpoint is getting that issue. I wonder why. Okay, let me see. Post ID. Did something else change? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why. Well, I'm losing the link. Let's inspect this page. Let me see. Looks like this link is not okay. There we go. But why is this working? Why did it aid that? I don't know what happened there. I don't know. Because, okay, let's go back, I guess. Style CSS. Actually, I'm going to save. Okay. Okay, so this is the home page. Wait, is there a meeting right now?
Si es un driver ahí medio raro, como que no lo instala.
Así es. Pero bueno, entonces se puede ir. Bueno, esta media hora es para ver dudas, para ver cómo les fue con los laboratorios, hasta dónde van ahorita, perdón.
Pues creo que ya todos pudimos mínimamente poner ¿cómo se llama? Un filter / expression dentro de dentro de nuestro workflow, correrlo y que se actualicen las tablas, y ya entendimos bien cómo funcionaba todo ahí probando y practicando. A prueba y error, más que nada. Pero sí, no sé, yo creo que ya bueno, al menos a mí ya me queda súper mucho más claro todo el proceso, más de lo que me quedaba ayer, entonces eso fue lo que estuvimos haciendo.
Muy bien. Entonces acabaron en el laboratorio 1, pero están ahorita en el laboratorio...
También acabamos el 2.
¿El que les mandé yo? ¿O de esos
No,
mismos?
de esos mismos, de los inicios, de los primeritos. Pero creo que sí podríamos terminar el 2 muy rápido. Digo, el que estamos haciendo contigo.
Ok, el 4. Bien. Sí, es que son 3 laboratorios, ¿verdad? De Luis, de la unidad 3.
Okay, looks like there is a meeting going on right now. I don't think it's
Quedó claro.
I'm going to remain here. I believe this is more important.
Más fácil y más aterrizado.
I'm not assigned to anything yet, so I wonder if I can do this inside the H3, and I wonder why. Yeah, maybe I need to change this to that. And I wonder if I can just use this template for my style CSS here.
No sé qué tenga que decir.
And refactoring stuff over here.
Creo que no están prendidas las máquinas. Le decimos a Martín que no las prenda de nuevo.
No, no las van a prender. Bueno, ok.
There we go.
Entonces deberías
I'm using the same URL
las horas.
for
Ok, entonces,
function here in order to get the
la
URL.
máquina
So that should fix my issues.
adelante.
And I wonder why it was working that way anyway.
Será bastante
There we go.
conmigo alguien con Rodrigo
Okay.
para hacer ciertos laboratorios. Entonces ahí lo que les vamos a pedir es que pues, pongan atención, ¿no? Yo sé que es difícil, pero de todas maneras estamos...
We can also do something interesting, like perhaps when we submit a form, to actually send perhaps the user's name with the form, so that
Sí,
Wait.
está muy detallado. Yo
Sí,
nomás-
ya.
donde tengo duda es en el Oracle SQL y a la hora de abrir el programa porque accidentalmente traje otra tabla que no era y entonces, o sea, no hay nada malo, Barraya, porque es una práctica, pero no traje la tabla que debía haber traído.
O sea, en el importaste una tabla, creaste
Sí, de otra base de datos, pues.
no pasa nada. Pero,
O sea, jala el procedimiento, pero no es el correcto, no sé si me explico. Nomás quisiera ver cómo es que se hace bien ese detalle, igual no con este ejemplo, sino con otro más adelante, para ver detalladamente cómo se hace esa parte y no tener...
Yeah, I wonder if I had some
ok.
mic answer. Oh wait, I have an answer for that. I can use this.
Digo,
Because now
quería dar un repaso, pero y ahora, pero tratamos de ver. Dame un segundo, Lin.
come on.
Otro comentario. Entiendan lo que es.
That's it. Wait. It doesn't care. Well, I'm losing a lot of time there. I hope that's recording.
when we send back a thank you note, we can say thank you, Andre, or thank you, whatever the username is. Very, very cool. Now, these variable rules, as you can see, there's a few of them, and you can read through the documentation. You might also notice this syntax here, which is the %, or %s, or %d. This is actually another feature of Python that you can read about, but again, it's not critical to your understanding of Python. For now, though, I think we have the basic skills necessary to start building our portfolio website, because up until now, frankly, this website doesn't look that great. So starting in the next video, we're going to build a really, really cool website. Something that looks, well, more like this. So that by the end of it, we can have a fully fledged portfolio website. And even though it seems like you haven't learned that much yet, you actually have learned all the skills necessary to build something like this.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Okay.
Let's go explore some more in the next video.
He say kinda. Okay, I guess.
Hey, welcome back. I want to take a quick second to talk about this idea of data transfer from servers to the browsers. Now, we saw that when we open the developer tools, we can go to the network tab and actually see what type of data gets sent from the server. And here we saw that there's different types. But we mainly talked about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But we also see that there's a few other types in here. If I click on, let's say, the HTML, there's this field called content type that says it's a text HTML file. Now, this is something quite important because it uses something called a MIME type, and it stands for Multi-Purpose Internet Mail Extensions. Sounds very impressive, doesn't it?
Okay.
And you see here, and I'll link to this resource, and let's make this a little bit bigger, that browsers use this MIME type, not the file extension, to determine how to process a URL. So they look at the content type that our Flask app actually automatically sends to the browser to determine what to do with that file, so that they know, hey, is it an HTML file? Is it a CSS file? Is it a JavaScript file? Now, at the end of the day, all this data that we're transferring, it's all just text, but they can be in different forms, and the browsers can interact with them in different ways. For example, if we scroll all the way down here, we have different types, but we want to focus on the important MIME types for web developers. We have things such as plain text, we have CSS, we have HTML, we have JavaScript. So that if I go to the JavaScript file here, and I go to content type, I see that, yep, it's application JavaScript, and we see here that there's a little note about why it's application JavaScript here, instead of text JavaScript. Either way, this way the browser knows I'm about to read a JavaScript file, do some certain things because it is a JavaScript file. Now, if we keep scrolling down, there's also image types. So again, if we look at the images, let's say the PNG, again, if we scroll down, we see that it's an image PNG. At the end of the day, it's actually text that we receive from the server, but in a way that can be read as a PNG file. So based on this knowledge, websites work by sending all this data and letting the browser take care of, well, building the page for us. Now, so far we've only talked about HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And usually that's how websites are displayed. But there's different ways that we can also use servers, such as what we call API endpoints. So right here, I have the swappy.co, which stands for the Star Wars API. And what it does, as you can see here, is it sends us data. So instead of displaying a web page, it just sends us information.
Okay.
So for example, if I copy this, like so, and then let's say we do people over here. So let's do people. If I hit enter, look at that. I get this data. And this content type is what we call JSON. And JSON is just this format of data that we can use in applications.
It's basically
this data and perhaps
dictionary in Python
on the front page. So this endpoint, instead of sending HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, just sends us this JSON data. Because at the end of the day, all a server does is send some data, right? It serves data. We can send all sorts of things. For example, this RoboHash website, if I do, let's say, anything I want in here, and I hit enter, it sends me a random image of a robot. If I change anything in this endpoint, I get a different robot. So web developers and mobile developers use this idea of servers all around the world to try and grab information, grab data from a server, and display something useful on a browser. And I hope this shows you the power the servers have. We can do anything. The options are...
Okay, that's the explanation for MIME
sorts of
types.
servers with Python to do all sorts of things for us. All right, let's get back to our portfolio website.
Okay, here goes another break. Where were we? Okay, that's guarding. Uh-oh, whoa! I almost died there. Yeah, I really missing the timing on those dodges. Yeah. Yeah, goodbye. And that should be enough to open the castle. Again, I may like to do all that with Zelda because she's the one with the good weapons for getting better weapons. And who knows, maybe getting better weapons is going to allow me to farm more money and materials. Finally. Okay. We are going to go back. Oh, and money. Money is important. I'm running out of money all the time. Okay, that's more money. Wait, there is a hidden spot over here. Oh no, it's already done. No, never mind. Okay, the map is really big, but it's not really that difficult to navigate. Look, there is a box over here. Boxes contain money, and since I already use food for money, so I better use it. Oh, there is another box over here. There we go. Yeah, there is a good thing that all items fly to me once I discover them. Okay. I'm getting just monster materials from killing monsters, so for money I need to break boxes, barrels, or basically any other doodad. Like those boxes over there. This one here. More money. Okay. And money is used for merging weapons, buying materials from vendors. Whoa.
¡Prepárense! Como debe ser.
There we go. It's funny that in Breath of the Wild I was really afraid of those guys, but here you can just kill 10 of them at the same time. And now the door is going to be open, and let's move on to the next phase of the mission. I wonder if I'm going to be able to buy the next Warriors game. For Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Houses, I think it's called. Oh, look at this. More money. Oh, Zack. Hello, Zack.
Protegeré. Irule.
Hello.
¡Soy fuerte! Protegeré.
Yeah, I think I can handle this guy pretty quickly.
¡Se acabó!
Okay, Ice. Hey, where is everybody, by the way? Okay. What? You ain't doing anything.
¡Estoy bien! ¡Hielo!
Okay, I just want to break that one. Okay, let's go back to work. Come on. Oh, the mouse pad is blocking the way. Okay, so. What? Okay. That's mine types. Okay. Building a portfolio.
Welcome back. So we've learned the
Mashup
basics of Fluxus.
templates.
We understand what servers do, and we also know what browsers do. But let's be honest here. This is kind of boring. I mean, this is impressive. If you show this to a possible employer, they're going to look at you like a crazy person.
Yeah.
So let's actually build a nice looking portfolio.
That's right,
just
actually.
based on what we've learned up until now. Now, I have a little gift for you. That is the fact that you won't have to write your own HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because, again, this isn't a web development course. And luckily for us, if you Google anywhere online for something like free templates or HTML free templates, you can find some really nice looking websites that you can just use for free. For example, let's look at Universe over here, and I'll link to this resource so you can take a look for yourself as well. If I preview it, check that out. You have a nice little
It looks
website
pretty
or portfolio
good.
page that you can just use. How cool is that? And it's actually over
Black and white.
tablet and mobile friendly.
Oh, nice.
Everything is already pre-built for you.
Nice,
That's pretty
thank
cool,
you.
right? So how can we use this? Well, let's just download it. And by the way, as you follow along, you can actually use whichever one of these you want.
Oh, nice.
But for now, let's just use the Universe one just because there's a little astronaut here. It looks pretty cool. Let's just download this and see what happens. All right, I get a little question saying, how do we want to download the template? In our case, we want to pick HTML.
HTML.
And there you go. We get a nice little zip folder, and now we have this downloaded. So let's open this up. And oh boy, that's a whole lot of files and folders. So what should we grab from here? Well, there's a few things. First, this is the sample page. We actually don't need this, so let's just move it to trash.
Okay.
Next, we have assets. These are, well, different assets for our page to work, such as the astronaut page. So we'll keep that around. And then we have our HTML pages,
Okay.
which we definitely need. And then it looks like we have some JavaScript files and CSS files. Now there's a .gz here, which is what we call a compressed file, a gzipped compressed file. So this is just a way for the server to send a file, or the JavaScript file, which you can see is 138 kilobytes, but in a compressed form, so 44 kilobytes. So this way we're sending less data to the front end.
Okay.
We also have something like map, which actually helps us during debugging. But in our
Okay.
case, we don't need to worry about this for now. So let's just remove all the gzipped and map files.
Okay.
Move those to trash.
So only
I have one CSS
HTML,
file and one
CSS, and
all the other ones
JavaScript.
are HTML files for our different pages.
Okay.
Now what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and move it to our project folder. Remember this folder over here?
In the
So ideally we move the
in the
HTML files
templates.
into the templates and the static files, that is the
Yeah.
CSS, JavaScript files, and maybe the assets in here. So that is the images in here.
Okay.
So let's do that. I have my web server here. I'm going to first just copy and paste what we just copied.
Uh-huh.
And let's move all our HTML files into our templates.
Okay.
And you know what? Let's remove our existing templates as well because we don't need them anymore. We have
Okay.
a
You
pretty
don't
HTML file now.
need it. Okay.
And then just have all of these. We have a new index.html that is going to be a lot prettier than our old website, so we want to use that.
Okay.
So let's move all that into templates. And then let's do the JS and CSS file, as well as the assets folder into the static.
Static. Okay.
Awesome. So now that we have that set up, let's go back to our project and look at that. We have a lot more HTML that we haven't written, but luckily it's already created for us. Now, the last bit of setup is that because we moved our files around, we
Okay.
need to adjust the links between the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all the asset files. So if we scroll, if we go to index.html, we see that we're looking for the favicon in assets favicon. But because this is in static folder, we have to add static in here. So let's find where else we're using the assets in here. All right, so it looks like, let's make this a little bit bigger. So it looks
Oh,
like
do
here
I need
for
to do
our
that?
background image, we're once again looking for the space image, but that's, as we know, in the static folder. And let's see where else.
Okay.
Oh, we have over here as well. Let's do static. Let's keep going. Static. All right, everything is all good now. We have the static folder. Oh, and we have to make sure we add a slash in front of the dot. Dot just means current directory, and then look in the static folder.
Okay.
Let's go back. Make sure we do that for everything. There we go. And there we go. Now let's save this. And I don't think we're completely done yet, but for now, let's go into our server.py. And for our home route, let's remove what we had before. And let's just call it my home function.
Okay.
Takes no parameters. And instead, it's just going to return for us our index.html with no passed in parameters.
Okay.
So let's save, go back to our page or my website and see what we get when we refresh. All right.
There we
That's a
go.
pretty ugly website, but it looks like at least we're displaying something. But right away, we noticed that it looks like there's
The
no CSS applied.
CSS.
It looks like we have some HTML, but the links aren't working either.
Yeah.
So once again, this is because we have to update the links between the files. So what we'll do is actually go back to index.html. And in the head tag, we see that we have our style sheet, our CSS file.
Okay.
Again, we have to update this to have it in the static folder, as well as the JavaScript file, which if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we have the JS file here,
Yeah.
which once again will be in the static
Static.
folder.
Okay.
Right, let's save and go back and see if that makes things better.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that. That's pretty
It's
cool.
rendering now.
Mind you, this looks a little big because I increased the
fast.
size of my website by doing command
Yeah.
plus and minus, just so we can see better.
Uh-huh.
But that's pretty awesome. Now, if I click on, let's say, works, I get works.html does not.
It doesn't work.
So how can we fix that? We already know how to do that, right? All we need to do is to update these different routes so that it points to the appropriate. Now, in the next video, I'll show you how to do that, but I want you to attempt to do this yourself because we've learned this by now.
Okay, I'm going to try that. There's a lot of things to do, but it's groundwork at least. So it should not be that difficult. I may like to choose another one. Pure, a simpler, efficient way to set your products or projects. It will suit to any kind of business bar, gastro blog. This template is fully customizable and responsible design. It's the universe one. Complex. Okay. The factory. The graphic design concept of factory was made for startups who want to spread. Okay. Oh, I think this is I seen that before somewhere. Let me see the demo. Oh, nice. It looks beautiful. Nice. That looks good. Is everything here? That's it? I guess. 3 templates. Yeah, I don't really like that color, but this looks more professional, I guess. Let's download this one. Let's try HTML. Let's put it in downloads. Okay, so let's try to extract everything right now. It's going to be assets. It's going to be export. Well, I wonder if this is going to extract it. Okay. So only selected. Okay, let's see. What is sample page? Okay, never mind. Let's try assets. And let's try everything else. JavaScript. He's ignoring that, so this JavaScript, another JavaScript, CSS, another JavaScript, and that's it basically. The CSS and JavaScript files are selected, and the assets. I'm going to extract everything into the static folder. Yeah, show everything. There we go. So that's my static folder. And now all that belongs to the HTML. Everything, let's sort it by type. And there we go. This is way easier. So all of that, I'm going to extract all of that into the templates. Or replace. I don't really need it. There we go. Obviously, it's not going to be rendered properly, but I'm going to fix that. Okay. So that's the first step. That's step number 1. Okay. Okay, here's the fab icon. I think fab icon was overridden with this, but it's okay, it's fine. Okay. Let's see if I can replace this. And there we go. Okay, it didn't render correctly, so let's fix that. In templates, index HTML, obviously I'm going to need, oh wait, did I lost my, yeah, I think I did. Let me see if I can recover my, well, I don't need to recover the previous version, but I might like to get the code, the code that changed. I wonder where is the history here. Use, check out, yeah. Pet name, last tree. Where is everything else? I only see changes here. I should be able to see more things here. Where is everything else? File notations. Yeah, I remember seeing way more things over here. No. Yeah, I don't know where is it. I remember that there were a lot more divisions here where I can actually okay, let's see. Let's look for index. There we go. If I check differences, it should be, oh, but this is yeah, I didn't say that, that's why it's not there. Well, let's try to build this. Well, I am on Pi, so this is the code I need. Okay, here's the render for the table, for the main one. Okay, let's go to the index HTML and let's work here for a little while. Okay, let's locate the fab icon then. So here's the first thing. And actually, I may like to replace this thing. Control R? No. Control F. Replace it with this. Replace everything. Okay, that's the first thing. The assets folder is already replaced. What about the main CSS? Is that inside static? I think it does. There we go. This is the style sheet. Static assets, images. That should be it. Okay. Let's see if I can render this properly. Okay. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Probably this image is not here, but I don't care right now. Looks like everything else is rendering properly, including these pictures. The only thing that doesn't seem to be rendering properly is this. Let's see what's that about. It's just a static issue. Okay. Okay, let's see what's this. Unable to open mashup template SVG. Why you are not there? Static assets images mashup template. Okay, static assets images mashup template. Here it is. Oh wait, the link is not going to work right here. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. It's because the location of the index file does not correspond to this one here. So it's fine. It's fine. It's a template. It's fine. Everything is fine. But that's not the thing that is failing. I believe that maybe this image container. Let me inspect this section over here to see exactly what is going on. Well, it's a div. Okay. And this is outside the div. Okay. Yeah. That's a button. And that's it. Yeah, oh no, it looks like the EMG home. I wonder, is inside assets, images, EMG home. Okay, let's see. Static assets, images, EMG home. It's this one here. This is not working out. Why? EMG home JPEG is inside assets, static. I'm missing a static here. That's what's going on. Because this was not replaced, but I can replace it. Assets. But instead of double colon, there we go. Static assets, just one. It's this one here. Okay. I guess I'm going to be finding more broken links and stuff, but there we go. That's it. That was the only thing broken. It's rendering properly. I'm really amazed, and it's really fast. Well, I'm executing this server on local computing, so I'm not really that surprised. And I only rendering this over here. I guess I wonder if I can select several files, like all of that. No. No, not you. No. There we go. So all of this. Well, assets. Now, what? No. These changes. There we go. There we go. Those are the templates, and here on, I would like to actually use the name of the file over here, and that's going to be a lot of data to be stored as part of the Git repo. But I don't care. Okay. Uh-oh. One click. Thank you. Okay, everything seems to be working properly.
So try to make the website work exactly like we had it.
Okay. Mashup templates. Okay. There are other ones. Okay, thank you. This is the best. Well, let's see. Oh, that looks nice, actually. I may like to rebuild the website I built alongside my wife 2 years ago. This is actually really good. I'm going to say this. And developer maybe. I'm going to keep that on mind, but not right now. Okay, let's continue.
All right, were you able to get that? If not, don't worry. Let's go over what we need to do to get everything on our profile working. So we obviously have an about.html page. So that can just stay the same as it is now. We can call it about. And if we copy and paste here, do another one. Let's say, what else do we have? We have work.html. So let's do work.html, which will be work.html. And let's just check that this works. I'm going to remove the old route just so we have the home, about, and work.html. If I go back and let's go to home. Oh, looks like we have a bit of an error. And I did not change the function over here. You see that I have both about. So let's just call this work. If I go back and refresh. All right, let's go to works. Oh, it's works.html. Why isn't that working? That is because it should be works.html.
Okay.
Silly me. All right, let's go back. Let's
okay.
Works. All right, works is working, but once again, the CSS
you need to fix again.
Go back and let's go to about me. About me is working as well, but the CSS isn't being applied, and we know why that is. Once again, if we go to works, we have to update this to include the static folder.
Yeah, it's going to be like
awesome, and then we update the CSS.
I guess that you can use the template schema to.
So this is a lot of repetition, but I'm just showing you so
to
you
import other templates
again,
inside other templates. And basically import one template for the header, one for the footer,
in the background as I do this, so you don't get bored of me just
and not just replace over and over again. Yeah.
Last one, the JavaScript file. Let's save. Go back to our server. Let's refresh. All right, let's go to home. Oh, looks like index.html is not working, so we gotta fix that as well. We have the route directory that's working. If I click on works, looks like the CSS didn't work. Let's see about me. About me is working, so we missed something in works. If we go back to and that's because we have a work and works HTML. So we have to make sure that we incorporate the works HTML instead of the work one. Not sure what this page does, but I'm sure it's part of this.
Okay.
So again, going into our works HTML, doing the same thing we've been doing, adding the static.
The static.
Like so. And all the way at the bottom for the JavaScript file as well. Let's go back, go to works, and hooray, look at that, all our works are being displayed.
Okay, nice.
Images are not displayed.
Wonderful, actually. No, it's okay.
Now, can you guess why that is?
Yeah, you need to fix the references.
Our works HTML. And we look for images.
Yeah.
We see that here we have to add the static as well.
Static.
So again, I'll add those to the images, and just to make this faster, I'll just copy this and do Command F or Control F to search for all instances of images and make sure that we add the assets. An easy way of doing this, and this is what an IDE
replace
or a text editor like Sublime Text is, I can select the entire thing like this and do Command Control G, and this actually selects all the instances.
Globally.
Now,
wow.
cursors. Now what I can do now is just add the static on all the instances, as you can see at the bottom and the top here as well, so that I don't have to repeat myself. Now
Okay.
let's go back, refresh, and look at that. We have our projects displaying. That's really cool. And just like that, we have our templates. Now, we still have the components that we need to fix and the contact.
Yeah, but
The components we actually don't need, because if you go to the preview here, the components is just an HTML template that you can just copy and paste based on what components you need, but we don't actually need that on our real portfolio. The only one that we need is the contact page, which is really, really important because we're going to use that for our Python server.
okay.
Let's go back here. Let's remove the components.html. Or for now, we can just keep it there, but in the index.html file, we can go all the way down, and in the navigation bar section, you see over here how we have the components.html, we can just remove that, just like that. So we're not using it. Now, one thing you may have seen me do is copy and paste code, so that now we would have to do another route that says contact, and then once again do contact. But this is us repeating code. Based on what we've learned, can we improve this so this becomes more dynamic, so that maybe when we add a new HTML file to this profile, we don't have to constantly just copy and paste the same code over and over? Try that.
I don't know.
I'll show you how we can do that.
Maybe creating a single function and receiving the
Welcome back. Let's make this a little bit more
parameter,
dynamic.
the URL parameter
For all
with
the
a
HTML
variable
pages, It
name.
would be nice if this was generated dynamically.
Yeah,
Copy it.
because it's a lot of
Let's
copy
delete all of
pasting.
these. And instead, use this little syntax that we learned about, where we simply accept different URL.
Oh,
parameters.
that's
In this
what
case, we can just
for,
call it
okay.
page name.
Page
And this
name.
page name should be a string, right?
Oh, okay.
So now we can use the string type to say, I want the
String,
page name.
page name.
So this is going to be HTML page. And we want to render in the template the data that was entered in the URL.
Yeah.
So we can actually give it the page name here as the input.
And a single endpoint is going to manage all that.
Here.
Okay.
Let's see if this works. I'm going to save this, go back to our homepage,
Yeah.
and it works. What if I do works? Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, it
Go to
looks
about me works.
very nice.
Contact. All right, contact is working, but the CSS isn't being applied, so we have
Yeah, it's
and we
fine.
still see the components. All right, so there's a few things that we need to fix, but everything is working dynamically, which is great. And you see that even index.html that we had issues with before is now working, which is great. So let's fix a few things. We've now made our code super simple and easy to understand, but there's a few bugs that we need to fix in our code. First is to remove the components. Now, the reason this is happening is that each page, if we scroll up to the top, so let's go to the About page, has the components link. So from each page, we just have to remove the components. So let's go to Contact,
Yeah.
remove the components here.
Remote components.
Index, we've already removed the components for that one.
Yeah.
Go to Work. Work is a little bit different. We'll get back to that in a second. If we go to Works, and again, at the top in the navigation, the components, we can just remove, just like that. We also saw that the context page doesn't have CSS added to it. So again, we go back.
Yeah, I need to
we-
learn how to import templates inside other
over here.
templates.
Same with the favicon.
Because those changes in the that he's doing right now
file.
needs to be repeated all over again for
If
every
it's-
single page.
Go back, let's
And
refresh,
that's not ideal.
and go to Home.
And I know that can
works.
be done
That
because
works.
that's an
Okay,
issue
look at
that
Where is that? Right.
that
Now, a few
happens
things that I
to
wanna fix
me
here.
before.
One is that we see that the numbers don't match.
What, again? Whoa! And this is the bit one. Oh, okay. Oh. Okay.
Protegeré. Irule.
Wait, is he running away? Oh, he's running away. Okay. A very Naruto-esque music background music right there. Okay. Whoa! I didn't see you there. Whoa, that was a lot of damage, bro.
Vamos a ver.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Seguir luchando.
I wasn't. What?
Seguir luchando.
Ah.
Sí.
Oh, okay, well, I wasn't too far behind. I don't have to kill. Oh my god, are you serious, bro? Again? Okay, where are you?
Protegeré. Irule. ¡Tenerte con él! ¡Ya!
Es el fin.
¡Ya! ¡Soy
Okay. Whoa! Before I explode. Yeah, I got to say those specials. Whoa! That was a close call. That should be enough.
¡Qué atrevimiento!
Okay. Let's move on. Now, be careful here because the light. That thing is going to kill me. Oh, that's wall. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Protegeré. Irule.
Yeah, Zelda's quite slow. Whoa, too early, I guess. Whoa.
Estoy bien. Explosión.
Nah, too far away, bro. Oh. I was able to dodge that one, but that was just luck. That was lucky.
Hielo.
There we go.
¡Oh, soy fuerte!
Whoa. That was new. Whoa. Watch it, watch it. How many? Don't think I have more apples. As I said before, I need better weapons. Sometimes he changes the timing on the last attack.
Explosión.
Nah, it's too far away, send it. Yeah, too far away. Where are you going, bro?
Hielo.
What? Ah! Well, he's tough, so not a big deal. Nothing. Oh, watch it. That was close. Okay. Now, I'm close enough, but those bombs take a while to detonate, so... Okay, let's see.
Se acabó. Protegeré. Irule.
Okay, come over here. Ah, I can't explode. Okay. Let's go. No, that was the wrong one. Woo! That gives me invincibility, I didn't know that. Oh no, never mind. I'm not going to be able... Whoa! Oh! I was able to dodge that one. That was pure luck again. No! Ooh! I mistimed that very badly, but I was able to jump again. Is he dead? Nah. Whoa. Come on, get out of there. Yeah, this is stuck in a very funny way. Just be very careful now. Nah, I know what you're going to do.
移動に
He's about to die. Whoa. And that should be it. That should be the last. There we go. Now he's dead, I think. Yeah, he's dead. Wow. Oh, level up. Great.
La victoria es mía.
And I level up. Which means I'm getting a lot of energy now for special powers.
Se acabó. ¡Oh, soy fuerte!
Okay. Is Salt here? Where is him? Oh! That was a surprise.
Protegeré.
He just spawned with an attack. That's cheating, bro. Come on. That's not very sport-like. No.
いるわね。Se acabó. ¡Hielo!
Woo! Okay.
¡Prepárense!
Whoa.
Lo siento.
¡Oh, soy fuerte! ¡Ahora! ¡Hielo!
Okay.
¡Fracturado! Se acabó.
I think he's going to escape again. I wonder if that's enough damage. No, I don't think so.
Lo siento.
Whoa. Ah, no.
Estoy luchando.
Es el fin.
¡Lo veo!
There we go. Should I try to... Never mind. I still had some apples. Okay. He's done. Where's the door? Should it's this way? There we go. Okay, let's open all the boxes.
Mi poder me acompaña.
Wow, watch it. It's very dangerous here.
¡Oh, soy fuerte!
Okay.
¡Al ataque! Estoy bien.
Whoa,
Protegeré.
I didn't see you there. Wow, he died fast. Oh, be careful with those. Okay. Guess I should be moving forward, I think. Okay, where now? Oh, look at those. Wait, are there going to be enemies around here? Yeah.
¿Qué? Dame esto. Lo hice.
There we go. What? Oh! Oh no, watch it. Wow! Okay, that took me by surprise, I guess. Okay. Oh no, I got to defeat Sog again. Twice. So I guess the programming tells the game that that doesn't really count as a saving point, so I need to defeat him twice in a row just to get to the next saving point. And I should be very careful here because he's going to come out. He's going to come out and attack me directly. Very fast. He should be around here and... There we go. Where are you? There we go.
Protegeré. Irule. ¡Oh, soy fuerte! ¡Prepárense! ¡Con este ¡fuego!
Let's see. Oh, when I use a slate, I lose my superpower. Is that enough? I don't think so. Okay, he's gone. So I need to be very careful here.
¡Con este poder!
You need to be very careful here. Because these things shoot and they take a lot of damage. They do a lot of damage here. Okay, no.
Protegeré. Irule.
And I think this is where I'm going to be finishing this playing session. Wait, is that? That should be a saving point. I wonder why it's not. And that's it, I guess. What is my... Oh. Okay, the meeting is still going on.
Over here, we want them to ideally match, right? So we have this working, but then about me and contact, that's kind of weird. Let's see why that is. If we go back, we go to contact. We see that in the navigation, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, which looks great.
Yeah.
At the bottom, we see that the numbers contact me are a little bit off. So let's just do 04 for contact. If we go to about, making sure that the about page or about me is 0.
Yeah, but
So let's
he's
do that.
managing
Now, if I
templates
save
as
and refresh, contact me about
one template, one page.
Oh.
And I might like to
And
use
then
the
we're gonna get back to
templates for
one. I want to change this text so that
navigation menu
maybe I'm
and the footer of the page and stuff like that.
Index.html and look for this text. Add your site or app content here. So we can see here it says, hello, I'm James Dean, French designer. So let's just say I'm Andre Nagwe,
I guess that's just replacing things that already exist.
working as a freelancer. Let's do an instructor, because I am an instructor after all. So that if I save and refresh, how awesome is that? Super, super simple.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. All right, the last thing is the works part. If you look at my works and I click on discover, all right, so here you can add your own projects that you want. If I go to 06, I guess the links here aren't working since we only have one work. But let's say you wanted to add a different project. All we have to do is simply say work2.html and link in 002 here with.
Okay.
Let me show you how that's done. So let's go to work.html. If we do Control F and do 002, we see that these are the links. Look at that, 002, 003. So all we have to do is perhaps change the link here to work2.html so that it links to work2. Now, that's something that you can do on your own. Again, we don't want to focus too much on HTML CSS because it's outside the scope of this course.
Yeah.
But as you can see, we have a pretty neat website, pretty fast. It only took us a couple of minutes.
How do
and
you
we now have a portfolio
import
webpage.
templates
But there's
inside
one big
that?
piece missing. And one thing that Python can really help us with, that is this contact form. It wouldn't be a real portfolio website unless people can contact you, right? Maybe employers or people that need work now can actually send you a message. So for the next couple of
Yeah, I
minutes,
have done that
we're able
with
to send
Node.js
to
already,
our
but
server in the backend and actually
I guess
and
it's
save it,
okay.
store it somewhere. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
I remember that we learned how to send emails with Python.
All right, everybody, this is going to be really, really fun. We're going to create an actual contact page where users can submit contact information and enter a message so that they can contact you online. Now, if we go to the quick start guide on Flask and we go to accessing request data, this actually shows you how to handle it. And right over here in the request object is the code for us to actually grab information from the browser. Now, there's even things like file uploads, so we can get people to load their files and actually send it to our server. But for now, let's just focus on this. I want to copy the code first, and then we're going to talk about what's happening. Let's go to our server.py. We have our basic routes right here, and let's add another one, like this. Now, the only thing I care about right now is this part right here. I want to create a new route that I'll name for now submit form, and this is something that we'll actually have to create. It's going to have methods post and get, and again, this is just the default. Get means the browser wants us to send information. Post simply means that the browser wants us to save information. But we won't worry about that for now. We also want to define a function called submit form. And finally, I want to just return for now a form submitted hooray message. So that's our submit form endpoint. But it's not doing anything right now. We're never calling this on the front end on the browser. So how can we get this to work? Well, let's go to the contact.html.
Yeah, that's the endpoint
when we click
only.
on what happens. And actually, let's just search for it. If I go to title page, you see that we have the send.
Yeah.
So when we hit send, we ideally send some information to the server. So let's Command F and look for the send text. And look at that. It looks like it's over here. Let's make
Yeah, that's the button code.
just like that. So we see what's going on. We see that we have a button of type submit, and this is the button that we're clicking to send.
Yeah, you
it's
click
online.
that, it's going to submit the entire
You see that
form.
we have something called form. And with form, we have an action that we can take. This is standard HTML.
That
And
should
HTML is
be
really
a
the idea was to
post
display pages, but
action.
also using this form, be able to send data to the server. And we do that using this action attribute. And in here, we can put post or
Post.
get. And if you remember, that's exactly what we have here. This endpoint will be able to accept methods, either get or post.
Oh, interesting.
Now, we don't need to get into the details of what get versus post is, but a
Let's
good
just
way of
send
thinking about it
post.
is we can send data with get by simply attaching the information to the URL in here. But ideally, we don't want to send people's emails and message to the
No.
URL. Ideally, we want to send it into some body of text that's not so clear and obvious. So in our case, we're going to use post, and I'll show you how this works. So we're going to have an action in here that is post. Now, the way this actually works is we will have to call the submit form, which, by the way, is what our endpoint is going to be. So that with the form, when I click send over here, it's going to run this URL, essentially, submit form, with a method that is post. So the action submit form will be posted when I click send. Let's save this and double check that it works. So I'm going to say submit form here. I'm going to save. And for now, I'm just going to return form submitted. Hooray. If we go back and just write some gibberish, let's actually refresh, make sure it's new. If I click send, look at that. I get form submitted. Hooray.
Yeah,
And you see that
it's
the
not
endpoint here
doing
is submit
anything
form.
else.
This was the action that we added in the HTML file. Again, if we go back, open up the developer tools, go to network here. Let's make this a little smaller. If I click send, look at that. In my network, you see that we have the submit form.
Yeah.
Click on it. I get the response, which is form submitted. Hooray. And if I go to headers, you see that I did a post method because that's what I said. This is going to be me sending data to the server. You see that the content type is application xwww form URL encoded. This is just a standard data type that we can send when we use the form tag in HTML. But we don't need to worry about that because we now have access to the data that the user sent. So in the next video, we're going to try and capture the data that I sent to the server and actually read it with our Python code. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Okay.
So we were able to submit our form. And ideally, now we have a way to capture that data that the user sends to the server. Once again, if I submit some sort of data and click send, I get form submitted. Hooray.
Yeah.
Now, if I open up the developer tools and refresh that, you'll see that we have a few errors that we have to take care of. One is this form submitted. So if I scroll all the way down, there's actually one thing I need to fix in order for my server to be able to read this data. We have to go into our contact.html, and we just have to make sure that all our inputs, that is email, text, and the text area, have a name attribute. And this is so we can actually grab the data on the back end. I'll show you what I mean.
They only
So let's name
have-
here as email,
Okay.
here as the subject, and then name here as the message.
It's not using the ID, using the name.
And I go back to my contact
Okay.
and submit this again. Well, we'll have to refresh it first. So let's refresh, send some messages. And if I click submit now, and we go to submit form,
Now you're getting
see that if I
name
scroll all the way down,
attributes.
I have a form data field.
Okay.
We now have email, subject, and message that we actually sent all the way
nice.
back to our Flask application. Because we now gave it these name attributes, it knows what to send. So this is just a quick gotcha. It's just an HTML form standard that we'll just have to add ourselves.
Yeah, it's okay.
Now, if we go to the Flask documentation, we can access these values using the request dot
Request.form.
So if we go back- and we go to server.py.
Okay.
We can do something like they say in the documentation.
Yeah, I
can
do
say if
remember getting
request. And
those
this request is
values
something
that
we'll have to
way,
import, which I already have done from Flask.
like 2
So if
years
request
ago,
dot
3
method,
years
which is
ago.
if we said that the method is going to be post, which if we looked at contact.html, we have the method as post. So if that's the case, then I want you to grab that data by doing request.form, and I can access different values like email or message, like this. Now, an easy way for us to grab this information is actually to do a method called toDict, which is turning something, the form data, into a dictionary. So we're going to get everything as a dictionary. And then finally, to make sure that we get this data, let's just print data, and we just have to return something. So let's say return, and I want you to return form submitted for now. Otherwise, we'll just return something went wrong.
Okay.
Try again. If we save this, let's open up our terminal, and let's go back to the form. Let's refresh. I'm going to close this for now. And just submit our regular information. If I click send, form is submitted. I have some errors here that we're going to have to fix soon. But if I scroll a little bit up, look at that. We have
the object.
subject and message as a dictionary.
It's a dictionary.
We just transfer data to our Python app. How cool is that? Now, the reason we get this error at the bottom is because right now, when I submit a form, I'm still requesting the favicon icon. Now, if we go back to our application, you'll notice that anytime we visit a new area, our favicon is not showing.
Yeah, no.
Well, if we go back to our page, let's go to index.html. We'll see that in the link over here, we're looking for our favicon.icon in static assets. But if you remember, we have our bolt.icon right in the static folder here. So all we have to do is just either rename some of those files, or
favicon.
we can just move this, call it favicon.icon, and move it into the static assets folder, like so. Now, if I refresh the page, you'll see that I have my bolt favicon. Finally, I want to actually do something more interesting. Once a user submits a form, I want to have a little thank you message. Now, there's many ways of doing this, but the easiest way we're going to do is we're going to copy this entire file. So
More like a thank you message is really good practice to add a notification that the email was sent.
That we created.
So that's okay.
Instead of the form that we have, so let's grab this form information. So instead of having this form, perhaps it will simply say, thank you. I will get in touch with you shortly. Now, the cool thing that we can do here is that we can now redirect to the thank you page after they submit the contact form. And the way we can do that is in the server.py, we can import, let's make this a little bit smaller, and we'll import the redirect module. And all we have to do here, instead of saying form submitted, is we can say redirect to what route? Well, we'll redirect to thankyou.html, like this. Again, because thankyou.html is in our templates, and because our routes are set up to change dynamically, we should be able to redirect to thankyou.html. If I save, and let's say refresh, submit some data in here, click send. Look at that. Thank you. I will get in touch with you shortly.
Okay.
How cool is that? And there's many cool things that we can do here, right? Using the curly brackets like this. If, let's say, we ask somebody to submit their username or name, we can say
something else.
Perhaps their actual name that they submitted. So something like thank you Bob or thank you Ann. But that's something we've already talked about. For now, that looks pretty nice.
I don't think I'm going to be working with Flask anyway, because Django seems to be the go-to framework for building websites.
It even tells me, hey, this has to be an email. Okay, let's send. And there we go. Everything is working. There are no errors. We're submitting the form with all our data, and we're receiving all that information right over here. How cool is that? So we now have our server.py set up to actually accept information. And now we have our website that's able to, well, hopefully allow us to have clients message. But we need to do something with this data, to store it somewhere. Because now this is in memory. Anytime I close the server, this information
is lost.
We persist it somewhere. Or ideally, we store it somewhere so that
maybe a file
a week later and see who has submitted a form on our website. Let's do that in the next video.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I'm not following along anymore.
It's a long project, but stick with me. We're getting really, really close. You see, up until now, we've built this whole system, right? We have our HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files that we got free templates for. And we also implemented our server.
I don't think he's going to touch databases on this course.
And we can actually save that data and even send a thank you HTML page back once somebody submits a form. Our web page is now something more dynamic than just text that people can read.
I guess he's going to just save files.
And we now have sent this form data to our Python server. But there was a problem that I mentioned in the last video. That is, as soon as the server stops running, or maybe it crashes, that data is lost. Because right now, that information of the form is in memory. Ideally, we write it somewhere on disk, so that even if we stop the server, that information is still somewhere on a file. So that this file lives on this computer, just like a file lives on your desktop or laptop. So how can we do this? Well, we've done this before, right? We simply write to a file. Now, we're going to explore this topic a little bit more throughout the next couple of videos. But what I want to do is to close off some of these folders and create a new file in here that will be a text file. And this file will just be called database.txt, just a simple text file. And this database will act as our database where we store information that the server receives. So if you remember, we're going to store email, we're going to store subject, and then we're going to store the message. So ideally, we're able to append or add to this file as people submit the form. So how can we do this? If you want, pause the video and give it a try yourself. Otherwise, let's try this. We can create a new function here, write to file. And this write to file will receive some sort of data that we'll send. And we're going to say with open, again, something that we've seen before. And we're going to open the database. And again, because it's in the same folder as the server, we don't need to specify a file path. we can say database.text, and we're going to open in the mode of A. So that is to append to that file because it already exists, and we'll just call it as database. And
Well,
here we'll say that the file will equal
It's not
Database.
database really.
dot write, and then write what we want. In our case, we want to write the email, the message, or the subject, and then the message. And we can just extract that from our data, right? That we're going to pass in. So we can say that email is going to equal the data email. Subject is going to equal data subject. And then message is going to equal data.
Yeah, I would send that to a database,
And all we can do
to an
here is
actual
just do it straight.
database,
Let's
or
say
at
that we want-
least
We want, first of all, a new
a
line.
JSON file.
A new line every time there's an entry. And we'll say that we want the email, comma,
That is basically a text file just
Subject.
with the JSON
and then
extension.
finally,
So,
comma, the message. So
yes.
that's our write to file function. And then in here, instead of printing data, we can just simply call write to file and pass in the data. So let's save this and see what happens. I'm going to come back to the page and then click send. All right, looks like things have worked, but let's see if we actually wrote to file. If I go to database, look at that. I have my data. That is the email, the subject, and the message. And if I go back to the page, let's say go to contact again. And this time, let's do a different email. Some text, some more text, hit send, and let's go back. And how cool is that? We
Yeah,
have
you're
our own
safe,
custom
you're
database where we
safe.
store all these users' information. And
More or
the fact
less.
that even if I close the server, I still have this information.
Yeah, the
I can
data
always
is
come
there.
back and see who has submitted a form.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And if by now you realize this is how databases work, well,
No.
this is how databases work. This is why you hear the words database. A database is essentially a place for you to store data in a safe way.
But
outside
not,
of the server, right?
not
Because
really
if
in
your
a text
information is in
file.
memory, as soon as the computer closes, well, that memory is gone. Instead, a text file like this, even if I shut down my computer and turn it back on, is always going to be on disk, and it's what we call persisting. That is, it
Yeah,
persists
it's going to
so that it never
persist
gets
between
deleted.
runs.
How can we make this better? Well, right now this is just a text file. This is kind of inconvenient and hard to read. Maybe we're creating a startup landing page and we're collecting users' information, maybe email, so we can email people when the startup launches. A better way to create a database is maybe using a CSV file or an Excel file. So in the next video, let's explore that.
Did he say CSV and what else?
It's time to learn about CSVs or CSV files. Those are Excel files that we're going to try and create our database in. Now, luckily for us, Python has a CSV module.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to use the CSV module to
Just to
do
write
things that we're going to do, which is to
CSVs.
write instead of our text file to a CSV file.
Yeah.
Now, if we keep scrolling down here, you can read all about the CSV module and how to use it, but instead of going through it line by line, let's just code it and show you exactly how it works. So I'm going to create a new file, and this time it's going to be called database.csv.
CSV.
And let's go back to our server.
I may actually like
And instead of having the write to file
to
function,
try those.
let's write another function, which will be the write to CSV.
Okay.
And this one will be a little bit different because we have to use the CSV module. So I'm going to actually import it. If we go to the documentation, you can see that we can import it just like this. Import CSV. That comes built in with Python. Now in here, we're going to do something similar, except we're going to open the file that is the CSV file. We're going to append to this file, and we're just going to call it database. Or in our
Okay.
case, database2. So let's just say database2 here.
Okay.
Now we have our data that we receive, but instead of a
How
file
to
now,
write?
we have a CSV or a CSV writer. We're going
Okay.
to do a few different things here. First, we're going to write in our CSV these columns.
Okay.
Now, with a CSV file, by using these commas, so we have the email column,
So
the subject
these
column, the
are
message column, and the
the
commas
fields,
essentially say
the
this is
fields.
the end of this column, this is
Yeah.
the end of this column, and this is the third column. So we can keep it the way that we have in the database.txt file. Now in here, let's remove what we have here, and we're going to say csv.write
But right.
or writer to write to our CSV file. And this writer takes different parameters that we can give it. One is where do we want to write this? Well, we want to write
CSV,
to the
CSV writer.
database2. That is the file that we just opened.
Okay. That's
The
an
second
empty
is a
file.
couple of options that we have. Now, if we go to the documentation and we scroll all the way up, you see that we have the writer, csv.writer, and then a couple of options.
Delimiter,
delimiter,
and quote chart.
character,
Quote character.
and quoting are just options that we can give it that you can read on your own to tell it how we want to write into the CSV file. In our case, I want the delimiter to be the comma. That is, each item
That's the default.
in a row will be separated.
That's
by
going to be an issue.
whether we want any quotes around the characters.
Because if you have a comma inside your
this is
message, it's going to mess
And then
up
finally,
with your CSV file.
Is going to be CSV dot. Well, we can just copy exactly what's over here. Let's just copy quoting,
Quote
CSV,
minimal.
quote minimal.
What does that mean?
And again, just to practice this, let's say you wanted to know what quote minimal means. Again,
No,
just
I don't
look
know.
for that in the text, and it looks like instruct a writer object to only quote those fields which contain special characters. So essentially, it's saying don't wrap data in quotes unless we really, really need to. Again, something that you don't have to worry about. This is more of configuration that you can just copy and paste, and you can read up on your own what each of these mean. The important part is the
Okay.
fact that we're writing to the database with some options. So now we have this CSV writer object that we can use. So this CSV writer can now be used like this. We can write a
But
row.
the quote
It's a write
character
row.
is not,
And this write row will contain the data that we want.
it's not
We have
defined.
that, right? We want to write row exactly like we have above. Like this. Except the way we write rows is that we give it just each parameter. So we want to give it the email, variable, which we have here, the subject
okay.
variable, and then the message.
It's an args parameter.
Because we already have email, subject, and message, and the CSV writer is smart enough to say that these are going to be what we want, and we just pass it in instead of parameters actually as a list.
Oh, a list. Okay.
So that this row is going to contain email, subject, and message that we extract from the data. Now, if we
Okay.
didn't make any mistakes, this should work, but let's check this. Instead of write to file, let's do write to CSV. I'll save, go open up the terminal, go back to our page, and let's go to contact me again. Let's do w@w.com, some text, and hit send. Uh-oh. We have a bit of an error.
Yeah, the quote chart is not defined,
So it
bro.
looks like I have just a bit of an error here.
There.
And that is because we actually need a quote character to not be empty in here. So if we're going to quote something, we just need to say, hey, what are we going to use? And
So,
quote sign with the double.
yeah, why
You
not?
can use whatever we want. You might use this if you want, or this, whatever you prefer. So let's just do a quote that we use in a string.
Quote
I'm going to save
yeah.
this, give it another go. Let's
I
refresh.
don't really like to use quote
So let's go back
characters
and submit
on
again.
CSVs
Right, thank you.
because
I'll get in touch with you shortly.
of the high
And we'll go back to
probability
database.
to
All right, we have our new
mess up
You see over here that
when the
we don't
user
have a new one.
enters a double quote.
Let's actually open the CSV file. If I go to database.csv and I double click here, all right, it looks
I
like
wonder
we're
if the
getting our
library
database
escapes
email and
that.
subject are a little bit off. Ideally, these are the labels and headers, and all the rows come after it.
Yeah.
Now let's go back and submit just a different user. Let's go AW, add a couple of more, hit send. All right, we're adding new rows, but the only issue is that the first time we add a new row, we should have that extra spacing. Now this is an easy fix. If we go to CSV and scroll a little bit down, we see that we have a write header method.
Oh, okay.
What we'll do instead is actually just add a new line option and just give it an empty string. So let's just clear everything. Let's just clear everything in here. We're
No.
going to save the database
Okay.
and just have server.py. We're going to go back and submit the forms a couple of times just to make sure that everything works. If I go back and go to my database.csv, all right, we have our data. If I open this now, there we go.
Yeah, but
We have
you're
our
that-
database right here with our headers.
I don't think
and our
that's the
entries.
way
So
you're
now I can have
supposed
as
to
many
use it.
entries as possible, and people can contact me, and I'll always have this database for me to check to see if anybody wants to work with me. Very, very cool. But there's one other issue here. That is, right now we're just using an Excel file on the same machine as.
It's a CSV file.
You see, there's a problem here because now my server and my database are in the same location. So yeah, when the server stops, my file is still saved. But what happens if maybe this computer breaks or something happens to it and I can't turn it on anymore? I've lost my files. Or maybe we have so much data that we want to store. Well, this is where actual databases come in.
Yeah,
Databases
we need
specialize in storing
databases,
information.
bro.
Large-scale applications can use databases to store large amounts of data and then do really interesting things with them, kind of like an Excel sheet, but even more powerful. And on top of it, we can actually have a database on a completely different machine, maybe on multiple machines, so that we're guaranteed not to lose that data.
Quick fix. Okay. Yes, CSV writer, but instead open stimulative. Okay. Yeah, I guess.
Welcome back. Databases exist for us to store data that persists. That is, data that hopefully lasts for as long as we want it. So we can analyze the data, maybe we can grab it when we need it. And that's what databases do. And most of the time, when you're working with web development, you have the front end that focuses on the browser side of things. So that is the CSS, the JavaScript, the HTML. We have the back end, which is usually the server side, where we can use things like Python, Flask, Django to build a server. And then we also have this database side in the back end, where the server communicates with something like MongoDB, a type of database, to actually store this information. So instead of storing that information on an Excel file, like we have been, we can store it on an actual database, which gives us a lot more power. Now, again, this isn't a course about databases, so we don't need to fully go into the topic. If I go back to server.py, in the submit form, I want to wrap this in a try except block just so we can catch errors in a better way. So after the post, I'll do a try block, and we'll just indent this. And we'll also do a except here. And in here, we'll just return if there's an error, something, or let's just say, did not save to database.
Okay.
So that as we're testing this out, we know if something wrong has happened. In our case, we're going to check for the post. If it's not a post method, then we have an else condition that's going to return something went wrong, try again. And then we're going to try this piece of code. Otherwise, we're going to return did not save to database.
This is for on the complete, this is for another course.
All companies store data. From a simple record book of a small business, maybe even on a journal or a piece of paper, to massive companies like Amazon that need computers to store petabytes of data. Now, in order to store this information, pretty much every company, or sometimes individuals too, need something called a database. We saw in the last section how hard it was to have the server remember a new user. Every time the server crashed, the variable would get reset, and then it would start all over. Or if we wanted to do a login or a sign-in check and iterate through the emails and passwords, doing a loop through JavaScript, that's inefficient. That's where databases come to the rescue. So let's ask ourselves, what is a database? A database is a collection of data. And what we mean by data, there are many forms of them, right? There can be numbers, there can be dates, there could be password hashes, there could be user information. Databases allow us to organize this data in a way that is useful to us, and it makes data management easy. And something came out of that, and it's called Database Management System, or DBMS for short. It's a collection of programs which allows us to
Yeah,
access
well,
databases
that's
and
my
and it also allows
my
control access
my
to
area
database users.
of expertise
So
so
a
far.
DBMS is something in this box.
MongoDB
Something
and
that allows us a tool, a piece of software
I
that
guess.
allows us to communicate with the database, store information that's useful for us, and also allows us to update, insert, delete, look up whatever's in the database. And this idea of a DBMS really started to take shape in 1960s, and now it is at the forefront of many exciting things. There's an entire industry of engineers that just
Yeah.
do databases because
I work with that. Yeah,
now there are two types of
I've been
DBMS
working as that
are really
for
popular right now, and that
14
we're gonna
years
talk about in this
already.
course. And these two types are represented really well by Postgres and MongoDB. Let's talk about the first one, which is relational database. And this is probably the most popular. As you can see on the right-hand side, you see that all of these are relational databases. Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server. You may have heard of MySQL,
I've
SQL.
been working with all
These are
of
all
them
databases
actually,
that
but
have this relational database tag to them. And the beauty
Apache
is that
Derby,
they're all
no.
similar. They all follow a same
Hive, no.
relational databases. consist of
HyperSQL,
two
no.
or more tables with columns
Teradata, no. Everything
In this
else
case,
I've
users
been
is a
working with
table.
that.
and full name,
H2,
names
no.
created at are columns, and whatever values they have here are rows. Each row represents an entry, and each column stores a very specific type of information, like name, address, or phone numbers. And then the relation between tables and fields is called a schema. In a relational database, the schema must be clearly defined before any information can be added. And if this is confusing right now, don't worry, we're actually going to create these databases so it makes sense to you. If we had Twitter, for example, you can see over here the types of tables that we would have and how we would organize it. We would have a users table, a tweets table, a following table, and we can connect all these information, for example, by connecting different pieces of the table. For example, the username will be the same in the users table as it is in the tweets table. That way, we can say that the username in the tweets table is the foreign key of the username in the users table. And then from user will be the foreign key of username in the following table. Now, things like full name or ID, something that identifies each row in a table, is called a primary key. And we'll go through that later on in the section. All right, so all these databases, we're going to learn about Postgres SQL, but they're all pretty much the same. So once you know one, it's fairly easy to pick up the other ones. How do they actually communicate with
Python.
backend? Well, all relational databases use something
Oh,
called
but
SQL.
this is from Node.js course.
And SQL allows us to
This is
communicate,
not
just like
from-
HTTP did, between the front end and back end.
Yeah.
SQL, we're able to communicate with the database and modify.
I
get,
see
or update
Node.js and Express.js.
video on this topic as well. All right, so that's
Yeah,
relational databases. What about the second type?
this is not
The
for
second type
Python.
is called a non-relational database or a NoSQL database. And just once again, there are many
Not
different
only
types of databases.
SQL.
Full names like HouseDB and HyperTable. Now, a MongoDB or a non-relational database lets you build an application without having to define the schema first, unlike a relational database. If we go back to relational database, this schema or these tables have to kind of be predefined, right? We need to know how our
Predefined.
app is going to look.
Yeah.
Make these tables so that once the app is public, we can start entering user information and tweets and followers. With a NoSQL or non-relational database, we can just define it as we go. And they all have different ways of storing this information. So each one is very, very different. And this is another powerful reason to use a non-relational database is that if your data requirements aren't clear at the outset of your
Yeah.
project, and maybe you have a massive amount of unstructured data, you may not have the luxury of developing a relational database with a clearly defined schema. They offer instead a greater flexibility in that a non-relational database are more like folders, just assembling related information of all types.
I'm going to
Now,
keep
MongoDB
watching
is
to
something
the
called
end of
document
this one.
It stores information as documents. Let me illustrate this point to you. I have my desktop here with two folders. One is a relational database, and here I have users, tweets, profile, following. And you can think of relational databases with this type of storage, where this folder lives somewhere on a computer that stores this information. And anytime we need to ask a database for something, well, we grab the users. And if we also want to grab the tweets of the user, we find the user that we're interested in, then find the tweets of the user that we're also interested in with the foreign key that links to the users. And we can also find however many followers that user has. We grab that information and display it on our web app.
It's broken. No.
MongoDB, on the other hand, will
I messed
actually
up.
have each user as a document. So if I wanted to grab the first user, well, I just grab this document and it has all the followers, the tweets, the profile, everything is in this one document.
I
You might
broke
be
it.
thinking, MongoDB looks like a better choice than having this way of doing things, right? Well, it depends on your need, and that's why databases is such a complex topic. It really, really depends on your situation. You can see this MongoDB way being very useful if you had something like a profile, maybe a LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
If you needed something where you're working with just following data or just tweets data, maybe with the tweets, you want to see what is the average tweet size. Well, it's
I
really easy
messed
to just
it
grab this
up.
file and calculate that. Versus this way where you might have to extract it from each one of the users. So it really depends on your needs. Let me show you another diagram that might be useful. When we look at relational versus non-relational databases, you can think of relational as each table has a blog post, a blog tag, a blog comment, and it links these tables to give you the blog information. Versus a non-relational that stores this entire blog post in an entry and has comments, tags, categories, and all other related data just in one single place. So what does MongoDB use to communicate? If we go back to our example here, we had SQL for relational databases such as Postgres. Well, MongoDB has its own what we call query language, and it is just the MongoDB query language. But they both aim to do the same thing, that is to communicate with the database, provide an easy way for the server to communicate with the database. And in this section, we're going to be talking about that. And we're going to finally connect the dots and show you the power of databases once they're connected to a server. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. And I'm going to take a long break to get something to eat. And I'm going to be back at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time to finish up with this chapter, I'm not following along with the code because as he mentions this is a Python course. It's not a web development with Python course. So I wonder if he actually has an actual course. And let's look. I have 2 minutes. I'm making a lot of progress here, and there are just really there is very little left from this course, and I believe this is the last actually long course. No, well, machine learning is quite big. It's 2 hours, 3 minutes. Automation testing. I'm really interested in Selenium. But after this, I may like to focus on web development. If I'm going to do that, I may like to buy or check out other courses. There is one for Django that I'm really interested in. And this one here. Maybe this one. I don't know. Let's go back to... no, is this instructor? No. Wrong page. I wonder if he does have more courses. He's a really good teacher. Let me see if I can find his courses. There we go. 2022. I wonder if this is an updated course. I don't know. Okay, Complete Ethical Hacking Bootcamp. This is the one I'm watching right now. The Complete Developer, I guess, he's not specifying if this is going to be JavaScript or Python. I wonder which one is it. Let's see. Yeah, NPM. I guess this is going to be JavaScript. This is a Node.js. There we go. It's a Node.js project. Okay, no, this is not what I'm looking for. Well, I guess I'm going to be looking for Django. No, I don't think he's had. I guess this is the only Python related course he has. I don't see many others. There is a Go one. Excel, JavaScript, Next.js. Yeah, he's more like a JavaScript developer. Okay, so that's time up. Well, when I'm going to be back, but in my opinion, let me see if I can open this. This is my wish list. I'm going to probably get one of these 2 Informatica courses for my job. I'm not sure. Probably this one. Yeah, I don't think this is going to be it. And I may like to have a Django course. I guess this is going to be a Python Django complete course. Yeah, I don't think so. There we go. Let's refresh my list. There we go. So these 2 courses, and I wonder if there is something about Python unit testing. Python test driven development or something like that. Test driven development for Java programmers. Top Python Django web development. No, that's a bundle. I don't know. REST APIs with Flask and Python. Do I have that one? Oh, I bought that one. Oh, I am actually watching this one. Do I have any progress on this one? No, I don't. This is one of my courses? I don't even remember this one. This is very specific. Okay, let's see all courses. Unit test. JavaScript unit testing, the practical guide. This is the one that I just bought. Practical test-driven development for Java programmers. What about, no, I don't have unit test. This is the one. REST APIs with Flask and Python. I didn't watch this course, I just bought it. And now it's really relevant for me because with my current knowledge, if I just pick this one up, I could build databases and build the RESTful APIs. But then again, I don't have anything to show that for. This is a good course, but I wonder. Let's see the content. Deploying Flask apps to your own server, security in your REST apps. So basically, it's for creating RESTful app. RESTful. Yeah, I think I bought this one 3 years ago, and I didn't watch it. Yeah, I didn't watch it. How many hours? 17 hours. It's not too much. But the thing is that this is going to help me just to build databases, host them on the internet, and then sending requests to that database through Flask in Python. And basically just store data, retrieve data, but no front-end application at all. No website, no mobile application, no desktop application, nothing. Maybe I could figure it out a way to, maybe with a Pi, maybe with a Raspberry Pi and a finger sensor, maybe build like maybe build a work clock, maybe to check in and check out people on the job. I don't know. But this is just backend with Python. Yeah, I wasn't chosen for this job, so that's why I didn't watch it. But now, this course is more relevant to me right now because I already have more experience with Python now. Okay, this is one I'm going to keep on track on. But I like to, I'm going to favorite this course because I haven't favorited that one yet. Yeah, I'm going to favorite this one too. There we go. Okay, let's go back to my list, my learning. So I don't really have unit testing with Python. Started categories. IT so design, progress, structures. I had this pandas one, but yeah, I'm no longer on this job anymore. So I don't think it's relevant to me right now. But I might like to watch it maybe later, because my interest on pandas was to help me work with CSV files faster and automate a lot of things that I was basically doing on my own manually with Excel. I was working with Excel a lot, so yeah, never mind. A lot of AWS courses that I didn't watch because I didn't get the job neither. I didn't watch this one either. Okay. So what should I do? I should look for unit testing. Software development? No. Well, maybe Python, but I may like test-driven development. Thank you. Test-driven development with Python. I already had one for JavaScript, and I am really interested in. I'm looking one for Python. There we go. You are not teaching that. Okay, let's see, Python. But you're not teaching that. Okay, where else? No, maybe I need to go back to the home page. Maybe like this. I'm getting the same stuff. I do remember that there was more courses about it. Python programming, modern Python application, Python coding, Python mega course, automate everything with Python. Okay, I don't see anything related to maybe Python unit testing. Maybe I'm looking for this the wrong way. There we go. This is more like it. Unit test in Python, unit test framework. I may like to find something with more people. Okay, let's mark Python. Let's filter out the stuff. Not many people are buying these courses. Okay. That's one I already had. There we go. This is software testing. I don't think it's referring to as maybe this is Selenium.
Companies, I learned the value of engineering excellence and automated testing. Now I want to help you learn them as well. But who should learn automated testing? Software developers who want to continuously and effectively test their applications as they make code changes. This helps reduce bugs and improves productivity. And manual testers who want to take the next step in their careers. Automation saves a lot of testing time and makes regression tests far more reliable. With this course, you'll learn about all the major types of tests, including unit, integration, system, and acceptance. We'll cover mocking and patching. We will learn about testing web apps and REST APIs using both web scraping and Selenium, as well as key topics such as explicit and implicit weights. All of the Selenium code we teach in this course has been crafted through and working with large test code bases in large companies, so you learn modern, real-world skills, and that includes behavior-driven development. In addition, you will learn about using Postman to write systems for a REST API. At the end of the course, we will learn about working with Git, as well as how to set up continuous integration pipelines that run our tests automatically whenever we make code changes. I'm really excited to guide you through this course. It is the culmination of a lot of professional experience, so I'm sure you'll love it. I'll see you.
Okay, this is interesting. Let's add it. Oh, this is exercises.
100 exercises. Knowledge in Python and unit test framework is a great test for people who want to. If you're wondering if it's worth taking a...
Nah. Okay, this is one. Python complete master course. I remember finding one here. Python test-driven development. Unit test-driven development. This is one. Oh, it's the same one. Wait. No, it's not the same one. Okay, let's see.
Hi, my name is Rich Wells, and I've been a software developer for over 20 years. And in that time, I found that trying to keep my code base clean from bugs is a never-ending effort. So layered safety net of tests in place, testing it immediately. If there is a problem, TDD concerns and best practices, message me with
okay.
You may have, and I hope you enjoy the course.
Yeah, this TDD. I think I just watched this before.
I've been a software developer for over possible in your code before.
It's the same video?
Problem, it's easy to... In this lecture, we're going to walk through an actual test-driven development coding session.
Okay.
For example, we'll be using the FizzBuzz Code Kata. The name Kata comes from martial arts and means training exercises. So Code Kata are training exercises. I'm in the red phase, so my first step is to implement a failing unit test for this functionality.
Okay, he's oh my god, you really need to make that bigger. Yeah, you're going to strain my sight.
Mark off this test case and move on. Is there anything to refactor here? Any duplication? The expression in the two if statements in the FizzBuzz.
Yeah, he's a tutorial, not a scripted kind of guy. I don't know, I guess this is going to cost me a lot of time. Maybe this is the best option. Yeah, probably this is the best option.
And effectively test their applications.
And I already got one course with him. That's why I got the one for Flask. Yeah, I guess this is a good option to begin with. this is the other one because I may like to learn how to use Mockito or mocking objects. I heard about a library called Mockito, but I don't know if that's for Python. Okay, let's see.
To the best course online to learn testing with PyTest completely hands-on. I am Faisal. I have created this course to share the experience that I have gained in my career with you. Why should you take this course? The goal of this course is to make sure you learn PyTest framework and mocking the right way, and don't waste any time going through broken, incomplete online tutorials.
Yeah.
I have simplified topics and made it easy to understand with real-world examples. I will make sure you not only learn PyTest the right way, but also have fun learning it.
PyTest.
It's not a theoretical course, but we will be doing practicals by writing programs of each and every concept, which will help us understand even better. This course is designed keeping beginners in mind. We have made sure that each and every concept is clearly explained in an easy-to-understand manner. So if you are a beginner, don't worry. I am 100% committed to helping you succeed. After completing this course, you will have a solid understanding of how you can write great tests using PyTest, and also how you can write mocks to remove dependencies from your Python projects. We will be doing hands-on
Write
work,
mocks.
which will not only help you write complex programs confidently, but also crack job interviews. Why should you learn the PyTest framework and mocking? PyTest is an open-source testing framework, which is very easy to learn because of its simple syntax. PyTest offers features like ability to run tests in parallel, skip tests, etc. PyTest is one of the most popular frameworks and a hot favorite amongst Python developers. On the other hand, mocking lets you as a developer perform unit tests in isolation, cutting down any external dependencies that your project might have. This course is backed by a 30-day money-back guarantee, making it completely risk-free for you. So, what are you waiting for? Let's take the first step. Press the buy button now.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, but I wonder if it's actually pretty good.
To the best course online to
Hello guys, welcome back. So in this lecture we are going to talk.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see the curriculum. It's a very short. Just 3 hours. Assertions. Nah, this looks like a tutorial thing. Yeah, nah, I don't trust this guy. This looks very tutorial-y. Well, I may like to try this one. And, well, I'm going to get something to it because I have a meeting at 4. And, or, yeah, it's not going to make... Okay, thank you for coming in.